Thanks so much, Ellie. Yeah, as you say, we'll be back with all the news as it happens at Edgbaston. Obviously, Ball commentary over on 5 Sports Extra. And Katie Boulter's big match against Serena Williams' conqueror Harmony Tan is about to get underway on court 2. So back with our team at Wimbledon. We're right across the sporting world as ever on 5 Live Sport. The first stop is Perth for this fascinating first test between Australia and England. The anthems are coming up. At the moment, we're just having the welcome to country, the traditional Aboriginal welcome to the England team. And Natasha Hunt, Ugo Monye. Worth pointing out some late-breaking team news involving Australia, involving their talismanic fly half, Quade Cooper. He's rolled an ankle, he's out. Noah Loloseo starts. In comes James O'Connor onto the bench. Big change at 10.
Yeah, huge change at 10. All week the prep would have been about working through him, how he likes to play. So massive, massive change for them, and hopefully they can hit the ground running when it comes to it.
The anthem of Australia, Advance Australia Fair, is coming up. But first, here is God Save the Queen.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Former England international Ugo Monye and current England international Natasha Hunt both humming along to God Save the Queen. And now, here is the Australian national anthem.
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every state advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia
Here we go then, the anthem's completed, the formalities done. Australia against England, the first of 3 huge test matches across the next few Saturdays. Earlier today, Ireland put to the sword in Auckland. New Zealand 42, Ireland 19, and Japan 23, France 42. The score from Tokyo. And let's just go through the Australia team while we wait for kick-off. Angus Bell, Dave Parecki, Alan Alaalatoa at the front row, Darcy Swain, and the 33-year-old debutant Caedryn Neville in the second row. Rob Leota, Michael Hooper and Rob Valentini make up the back row. Nick White's at 9, no Quade Cooper. He's rolled an ankle in the warm-up, so Noah Loloseo, the 22-year-old, starts at 10. Samu Kerevi, Len Ikitau in the midfield. Marika Koroibete, Andrew Kellaway on the wings. Tom Banks is at full-back. And this is the England team, widely considered one of the strongest Eddie Jones has put out in years. Ellis Genge, Jamie George and Will Stewart the front row. Maro Itoje and Johnny Hill in the second row. Courtney Laws, Tom Curry and Billy Vanapola the back row. Danny Care is back at the age of 35. He partners clubmate Marcus Smith at 9 and 10. Owen Farrell, Joe March in the midfield. Joe Thokanasiga, Jack Noel and Freddie Stewart make up the back 3 as Owen Farrell back in the ranks, the former skipper. He's not captain today, it's Courtney Laws wearing 6, but Farrell kicks off and straight away Laws the skipper trying to lead from the front and counter-ruck in this Australia ball. Nick White wearing 9 for the Wallabies in their gold. Opening stages from Perth, 5 Live Sport from the BBC on a big old day of sport, as it always is on your home of live news and sport. We'll be at Wimbledon, we'll be at the Grand Prix, we'll be at the cricket, the racing too. But first up, it's rugby union as Itoje tries to charge down that kick from White. A pretty solid start with that clearance kick from White, but it gives Natasha Hunt, England's scrum half, an opportunity for England on the 10-metre line with a line out.
Yeah, conservative start. I didn't expect to see anything less. Really nice setup of the box kick, just nice and controlled from Nick White, and a good touch finder. Would have loved to see that play quick though.
England set up a maul in the middle of the park. Ugo Monye, straight away England looking to assert their dominance as Danny Kerr spins it out to Farrell. Word from Ugo shortly, but Marchant tries to punch a hole 38 metres out as Smith now goes back inside to Ellis Genge, who drives on. Decent start for England. Genge on the sponsored logo, slap bang in centre field. Still Genge pumping his legs, but 3 or 4 Wallabies around him, and Ugo, they will force a scrum, Australia.
Yeah, really good defence. England actually did quite well for the first couple of phases. You see Marcus Smith and Owen Farrell interchanging, just tipping the ball inside out, trying to use those England runners. And Ellis Genge, such a focal point for the team, but a focal point for Australia in defence there, whose tackle choice is brilliant, as we're seeing pictures of Quade Cooper being consoled by his cousin, Sonny Bill Williams, just pointing down to his calf. Everyone was looking forward to that.
Has it happened to either of you two in the warm-up before such a big game?
Yeah, and I think the decision is we could risk it, but it could be the rest of the series also gone.
Never to me, touch wood, but no, it's crushing, especially when it's such a pivotal member of your squad, like the 10, that everything would have been going through him all week, especially the way that he plays. So hoping that Australia managed to settle.
Yeah, and the consideration about why Cooper got the nod over James O'Connor was that O'Connor lacked a bit of sharpness. Now O'Connor is on the bench, and if Loloseo goes off injured, he's going to have to play a large chunk. So some imponderables already for the Wallabies, whose cap count has come down by 66. Quade Cooper was about to win his 76th cap, and Loloseo is winning his 10th. First scrum of the game, Ugo, big area.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. I think this is an area where England can really impose themselves onto Australia. Of course, it's Australia's putting, but for the start of the tour, setting that standard, as well as getting on the right side of the referee, you want this ball to come in and out. And as I say that, naturally, as what always happens within the scrum, it will take a little while to get stability.
They love a reset, don't they? Asserting their dominance either side of it.
I'll look for you. Wait for my call.
Referee is James Dolman, a young Kiwi referee, just 31 years of age, but talked up in the week by Eddie Jones. Perhaps trying to get a message out there was Jones when he spoke to us on the podcast, saying that he likes quick ball Dolman. He's hot on defenders rolling away.
Yeah, and when you hear coaches talking about referees and saying he likes quick ball, he wants to play with quick balls, so he's just, just subconsciously trying to get those messages.
He's saying, I want him to
exactly
want quick ball. Again, we wait for this scrum. It's 3.5 minutes gone. The big thud of engagement from the two forwards, and it's a free kick to Australia. England go early, and that's where England have to keep their discipline. They may feel they're the more dominant pack, but you can't go early. You can't push the envelope too far.
Yeah, it's a real tricky one, especially normally you've always got your first scrum. There's kind of tactics in that. The forward pack would have been working on that all week, but just slightly across the mark there. Whether that's Australia just stepping back or whether that's England going forward, time will tell.
Decent crowd in at Perth as Loloseo hoists a high ball from the free kick. Taken in by Freddie Stewart. He's so adept under the high ball and is a Premiership title winner. You heard on 5 Live a couple of weekends ago, that thrilling finish to the domestic season. Freddie Burns the hero, Leicester back on top of English rugby. England attacking from inside their own half. Curry from Farrell's pass in the wide channels, 10-metre line. He goes over it, Tom Curry. There's Danny Kerr to Mario Itoje, who has Jamie George, his Saracens mate, with him. Good, clean ball for England, but slightly slowed down, and Danny Kerr will go to the skies. Back in an England shirt in a test match for the first time in almost 4 years. What a return for Danny Kerr of Harlequins and Rugby Union Weekly. Penalty to England as Australia take Kerr's kick. England with pressure. They hold on Australia, and a chance for the first points of the match here.
Really good play and understanding of what it was, and a perfectly weighted box kick from Danny Kerr onto Loloseo. He just got the call up just a few minutes before the start of this match, and it's Tom Curry with the collision, automatic turnover. England's first pass of attacking play was slightly ponderous, got turned over, and that's the good balance of playing quick ball and understanding when to kick it. Now it's given them great territory and an opportunity for Owen Farrell, if he's kicking today, to get points on the board.
How good is Tom Curry? just the awareness and the accuracy of straight into the breakdown, absolutely brilliant.
So Owen Farrell lining up this kick. We're just about out of time to go to Wimbledon, actually. Court 2, Katie Boulter in action, Naomi Cavaday.
Yes, and she's already down an early break of serve at 2-love against Harmony Tan. We've already seen a tweener from Harmony Tan hitting a shot through the legs. She is a very tricksy and skilled player, but not a great start for Boulter, who has switched her rackets to try and find a better tension. But it is 2-love to Harmony Tan.
Nice one, Naomi. We're just going to have this kick from Farrell. Then we'll be to Edgbaston. There has been a wicket in the cricket. India resumed this morning on 3-3-8 for 7. England looking to skittle the Indians out after that magnificent pant rear guard yesterday. But Farrell, 30-odd metres or so, 17 metres in from touch, beautifully struck. It's going to hang in there, and it's over from Owen Farrell. 6 minutes gone. Farrell on the board, England on the board. Australia 0, England 3. Ellie Oldroyd at Edgbaston.
And Ravi Jadeja is out after his invaluable 104. Jimmy Anderson striking with the new ball, having a big swing at it. Jadeja might have just got a little inside edge, but off stump gone. And he is out for 104. India are 375 for 9.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Well poised that test match at Edgbaston. And ball by ball, as ever, is over on 5 Sports Extra Radio 4 Longwave. Freddie Stewart took the restart. England have it with this 3-point lead. The turf, guys, already starting to cut up a little bit. They played the State of Origin on this the other night, and there were reports of plenty of slipping from the players. But England win another penalty as Australia don't roll away, so they'll be able to come out of their own 22, Natasha Hunt.
Yeah, they will. What I'm loving as well is Danny Kerr, as soon as a penalty is awarded, he's hands on the ball, his eyes are forward, he's looking like he wants to go quick. I'm sure soon we'll see that quick tap and go from him and a nice little counter-attack.
It was Alaa Toa who was on the wrong side of the ball, and you know, we referenced Eddie Jones's points earlier about playing with quick ball. It's going to be so important, because when you look at both backlines, they are prepped to be able to go and play. So if you are caught on the wrong side, which referees have been telling us all season, rolling from east to west, not north to south, just providing that space there for the nines to get the ball away, because we want to see rugby today.
Nearly 8 minutes gone in Perth. Australia 0, England 3. England's line-out is picked off, though, by Australia. And here goes Marika Koroibete, one of the best performers for Australia at the last World Cup, despite crashing out of the quarter-final against England. Over on the far side, Australia attacked through Tom Banks, just short of halfway. We haven't really seen the Wallabies with ball in hand yet today in the opening 8. The forwards drive on. Johnny Hill's in there making the tackle. So too is the skipper, Courtney Lawes. White comes to the right. Nice hands by the Australian backs. Over on the far side, they attack, still keeping the ball in the hand. Australia going through the phases. Phase number 6 for the men in gold. White once of Exeter Chiefs, looks left and goes right and finds Banks once more.
Yeah, they're going through plenty of phases. 7, I mean, that's a poor penalty now. Courtney Lawes has just given away, because for the last 6 or 7, Australia weren't going anyway. Referee just there, just reiterating his point there, but for Australia, you don't want to release that pressure valve for them too easy. Defence was good solid hits in defence. I was waiting for them to kick the ball to Freddie Stewart, who barely gives anything away, so a soft penalty to be given away there for Courtney Lawes, the England captain. Yeah,
that's the point, isn't it? England looked comfortable in defence. Australia going through 6-7 phases, but not really getting anywhere, and then a needless penalty conceded by Lawes. And Natasha, Australia not going for goal, perhaps at the edge of range for Lolaseo, kicking up to the 22. Now this is the best attacking platform we've seen for the Wallabies all game.
Yeah, absolutely. What they've done in the back line is they've just gone hard and straight and thrown their shoulders back towards the line, but there's no real deception, there's no 2 lines of attack, so it's quite easy for England to pick off at the moment.
I wonder if that's the impact of Quade Cooper's late withdrawal. If you're just joining us on 5 Live, Australia lost their fly half in the warm-up. Cooper rolled an ankle. Lolaseo starts, James O'Connor on the bench. Parecki does find Swain in the middle of the Wallaby lineup, but they've knocked it on Australia. Michael Hooper gesticulating to the referee. He felt there was interference, but the referee didn't see it, and it will be a scrum to England, Hugo.
Courtney Lawes, who gave away the penalties, come up with a massive play there. The ref was actually just speaking to the English players about their volume and shouting across the line, but Courtney's... So it's for accidental offside, but it's Courtney Lawes' hand that's gone right across. You can see the ball's been knocked on forward into an Australian player, meaning they're offside. Scrum to England. And whilst the first scrum got led to a free kick, it was Will Stewart on the tight head side at number 3. Another good opportunity to hopefully get a solid platform. And let's see if England look to attack out their 22 or put boot to ball.
Yeah, England on the cross of the 15 and the 22. Kerr feeds. We've not said that in an England context for a long time. Penalty to England. So England do get dominance that time. And look at the body language there from Tom Curry. He's pumped up. England win the penalty, and just what they need to get out of their own territory and take play up to halfway. Looks like
loose head hinging.
Yeah, loose head hinging. Angus Bell singled out by the referee, so one in the cap for Will Stewart.
But both free kicks have come that side of the scrum. It's Will Stewart who got penalised just a few scrums ago, and now it's Angus Bell on his side. So that's a real problem area. But now a good opportunity. First line, it didn't go so well for Jamie George. It's important to hit his man.
That's perfect from George. Finds Itoje. That combination works so well for Saracens England and for the Lions. Billy Vunipola over the game line. Quick ball for England. We've not said that much in the last couple of seasons. Smith and Farrell linking. Stewart's up from fullback. Clattering tackle by Corabetti. But England are inside Wallaby territory now. Johnny Hill with a big carry. He crossed again, and lightning fast ball for Kerr. Much better from England. Farrell out the back. Marcus Smith tried to get Marchant coming in tight. Marchant is felled on the 10-metre line. Kerr with a swinging wide pass to Ellis Genge. Genge tackled by Dave Parecki, once of London Irish and Saracens. Kerr looking for a little snipe, almost burrowed under a few Wallabies there, Danny Kerr. In goes Stewart to play at scrum half. Finds Jack Noel in his blue scrum cap looking for work. England lead by 3 on 5 Live. Kerr now out to Courtney Laws, who threw a dummy. Goes over the 10-metre line. Decent quick ball for Kerr, who spins it to Farrell, who goes to the skies. A towering up and under, looking for Freddie Stewart, who's so good in the air. Stewart wins it and finds Jamie George. Beautifully done from Freddie Stewart and George. Curry now plays at scrum half. Enterprising stuff from England as Ellis Genge batters over the gain line. Therefore Kerr out to Farrell. Farrell's in at 10. Smith at 12. Inside ball to Thokanasiga. Jack Noel got the offload and he managed to just about get it away to Marchant. Not quite coming off for England, but it's not far away, is it? 22, Danny Kerr, Tom Curry, big Billy Vunipola back in the starting 15. He might be caught in possession here, Vunipola. He is, just kind of got on the body on the wrong side, turned a bit, and Australia win the penalty. But Natasha Hunt, some good rugby from England, mixing up ball in hand and the crossfield kick.
Yeah, really nice play. Weren't really going anywhere, not making much ground. Ugo was actually sticking his hand in the air, like, go to the air. Freddie Stewart is so good under that high ball that it's just a no-brainer. What a take from Jamie George as well. Batted it back. He had about a split second to react, managed to regain that ball, but it's just a little bit clunky for England at the minute. They're doing the right things, but it's just that little, just the speed at which they can transfer into coming out the back door and then attacking the line. For me, it just needs to be a little bit quicker.
Yeah, the last time England played was out in France, and that was a marked improvement of it. We saw them go into the air with Freddie Stewart, but the interplay, we're seeing Marcus Smith actually attacking just a little bit wider, didn't connect all the dots, giving Australia a great opportunity to play from there.
Australia go over the top of the line now. Big collision between Karevi and Curry. We felt that one from here as Australia drive up just short of the 10-metre line. Johnny Hill's gone in there and stolen, has he? Great work from the extra man, but it's a penalty to Australia. I think Hill was originally legal and then he was holding on. So the penalty to the Wallabies. Game just struggling to get going, but you feel that the teams are almost there. England with that last attack, just a percentage or two of accuracy away from cutting Australia open, but Australia do have the penalty and a chance for the Wallabies to go deep into English territory now.
Yeah, I think Hill was actually lucky there, because for me that ruck was formed and he's just got hands in, managed to get away with it. But really good opportunity now for Australia as they kick to line again, showing their intent to play.
I've got to say, the kick into
I was going to say, Hugo,
yeah. Yep, on the 22.
Penalty after penalty. I mean, these balls should be getting way close to that 5-metre line, but Canaway's taken, what, 20 metres off this? So now Australia have a line out just outside England's 22.
It changes everything. If you're throwing in 10 metres, you're asking questions of the defence. They don't want to give penalties away. Now it's a 22 attack for Australia. So really conservative line kicking for the Wallabies, which perhaps is costing them. But they have the ball through White. Driven on by Valentini, the number 8. But that's been lost by Australia. So You can tell this is the start of a series. Both teams really lacking fluency after 15 minutes. Laws has dived on that. Kerr goes to the left. Okunasiga's got Johnny Hill outside him. Big carry into Michael Hooper from the Bath man. Back in the England team in a big test match in a while. Played last summer with Okunasiga, but this is a big one out in Australia. Kerr to Farrell, who's taking in a first receiver loads and looking for Smith out the back. Smith finds Stewart up and fullback. Stewart knocks on. We're going to go back for the penalty, but error upon error from both sides.
Yeah, it really is. I see what was trying to happen. Smith just squared out the back door again, as we mentioned. Farrell's standing in that first receiver role. Smith's coming out the back door a lot. So good on that arcing run, squaring defenders up and trying to stand them up, but just no empathy on the pass to Stewart as he's hitting that really hard line.
If we take our minds back to November, it was Marcus Smith to Stewart who end up going under the sticks, and you can see they're hiding Marcus Smith in that boot, using his feet to try and get that line to be straightened up. Didn't quite work out that time.
Right, England will have the penalty, so a chance to clear their lines from inside their own half. As we go back to court two, how's Katie Boulter getting on, Naomi?
Well, it's been an uncomfortable start in many senses of the word. Her opponent is very, very tricksy with her slices and is making life difficult for Boulter, but she looks a little laboured physically as well. I think she's struggling with something. Maybe it will loosen up because she does now have a game on the board as she trails Harmony Tan 3-1.
Danny Kerr with a little snipe through the ruck. Thanks very much to Naomi Cavaday. Latest with Katie Boulter, as it happens over at Wimbledon, as Smith with a little left-footed kick-through drives Australia back into their own 22, and just a glimpse there of the trademark Danny Kerr snipe.
Yeah, it's a really good option. The defenders are rushing to try and get far side. He's just gone back near side, just caught in the breakdown there, but lovely option from Smith as well. Just keep the pressure on. I think he would have liked to wrap his foot around that a little bit more, keep it in field, but pressure back on Australia.
Yeah, it really is, because White has been caught just 5 metres from his own line. So Australia, without their scrum half, who's stricken on the floor, have to set it up only 5 metres from their own try, and they're boxed right into the corner here, the Wallabies. Now White is back on his feet. That's a welcome sight for the Wallabies, and he's got loads of experience, Nick White, nearing 50 caps. He'll win that in this series if he starts all 3 tests. He clears his lines. Vunipola plucks it out the air with one hand. Lovely left to right pass to Jack Nolan, a little bit of space, and Noel is off. Good stepping Jack Noel. He's sewed up a few Wallabies there. Danny Kerr, slightly loose ball, and then it's been chucked into an Australian. Advantage being played, was that for a knock-on? I think it was. So it will be a scrum to England at worst. Kerr finds Billy Vunipola out the back, but it's loose to Owen Farrell, who's loose to Freddie Stewart, and just feels like both teams are not quite there yet. 18 minutes into this opening test of the 3-test series. 10-metre line, England through Kerr, out to Genge. He finds Tom Curry. Curry over the 10-metre line. Can England put some pace on this? Can they punch the gain line? Freddie Stewart's up from full-back. Shades of Geordie Barrett early this morning as New Zealand beat Ireland with a bit to spare in Auckland. Will Stewart, who's won a scrum penalty, he drives up and gives quicker ball for Kerr. Now Farrell at first, good ball to Tom Curry, much more like it. Curry, he's got Joe Marchant here on the right wing. Marchant for the corner. Oh, what a tackle coming in. Karevi saves the day for Australia, but great rugby at last from England. Itoje drives. Itoje's almost up to the line. It's there for Kerr. He looks to the left. He finds Farrell out to Marcus Smith. Smith's got Jamie George, but he looks to step himself. Again, good tackling. Again, Karevi saves the day. Earlier it was Korobetti with the try save, but this time it's Karevi. This time it's a penalty to England. Kerr is going to go quickly. No, he isn't. And I imagine Farrell will bang this over for 6-0. But Ugo Monye could have been a lot more for England.
It was as connected as England. It was as connected of England. In fact, connected as anyone's been in attack this match. Here's a lovely ball from Owen Farrell to Tom Curry, who looks slightly lost, just looking for his defenders. But what a ball, as we're seeing it here once again. Lovely outside break. Curry then off his left hand to Joe March. You've got to say the level of physicality from Korobetti, which was an absolute try saver. And the moment England got in behind and 5 metres out, Maro Itoje, the Johnny Hills, and then it was a penalty that was given up by the Australian number 2, which gives England another prime opportunity to be able to double their lead.
Yeah, it's just a really good attacking set from England, wasn't it? They had 4 runners at the ball going at the line with Owen Farrell, and we know how good he is on his day when he picks the right option. Absolutely brilliant line by Curry. If he could have just looked over his shoulder to Marcus Smith on the inside, I think he was in for another try, but lovely play, lovely attack.
Well, England are 6 up, but they could easily be 10 points up. Will they rue that? It was a lovely ball, as Ugo and Natasha Hunt were outlining after a few kind of sets of attack that weren't going too many places. Bang, good snappy pass from Farrell. Curry siding through, marching for the corner, but Corabetti with a try saver has kept England to just 3 points from that attack. Australia 0, England 6, knocked on by Banks from the kickoff, so it'll be a scrum to England. And from what you've seen so far, Ugo and Natasha, anything for England to fear from this Australia side?
Not much. I think it's been quite a lot of sparring actually in the opening 20 minutes. No one's... There's an issue there for Banks, who just went up to chase that restart. They've been putting everything to compete on Freddie Stewart, and he's come off second best there, as we're seeing a replay. Lands really awkwardly. Oh, good. It looks like a broken arm actually. That looks horrible.
Well, it looks like we're going to have Tom Banks, I think he's going to have to come off. He's done something to his left arm and left wrist, so as Banks gets some much needed treatment. Let's go back to Edgbaston. Ellie.
416 for 9, India, and Stuart Broad has had an amazing morning. He's taken his 550th test wicket. That was Mohammad Shami, but he has just conceded more runs off and over than any bowler in test match history. 35 off the over. The over went 4, 5 wides, 7 no balls, 4, 4, 4, 6, and a single, which ended up with Mohammad Siraj and Stuart Broad both diving for the stumps at the far end and just demolishing the stumps. But this might be out finally. That is the catch which ends the innings. Broad takes it suitably enough. Siraj is out for 2, but 35 runs off that incredible over. Jasprit Bumrah was the batter on the end of it. He's 31 not out. India all out for 416. Stuart Broad was laughing at the end of that over, but it was somewhat rueful, I think. 35 off the over, and 8 deliveries in it.
You're joking. Well, so shame to Yuvraj Singh, who put Broad for 36 once. Goodness me, as Ellie was saying. God,
this one for question this morning.
You'll have that in a few series time, Ugo. Most runs off and over in Test cricket. How about that for a stat? That doesn't get much better than that, although not from Stuart Broad's point of view. Of course. Right, we're still waiting for play to restart here with Tom Banks, the Australian fullback, getting some treatment. So back to court 2, Naomi Cavaday watching Katie Boulter.
It's going from bad to worse here for Boulter. She's now down a double break, and she trails Harmony Tan of France 5 games to 1. And it has to be said that Boulter really is a million miles away from what we saw from her on centre court a couple of days ago when she took out a top 10 player and former finalist in Karolina Pliskova. Really feels like she is struggling physically, and she trails 5-1.
Harmony Tan, what a tournament she's having. Serena Williams just a little while ago, but breaking play here at Perth, I mean, that is massive disruption for Australia over the last 20 odd minutes or so. Quade Cooper, the Australian 10 who was due to start, he had to pull out, so Lolesio has stepped up. Now Banks, who has been so secure and such a brilliant player for them for a couple of years now, is having to be substituted for Pattaya, who's now coming on. So it's really going to change it. The natural thing, I think, would have been potentially for James O'Connor, but James O'Connor only found out he was in the matchday 23 5 minutes before the game actually kicked off.
Yeah, completely. That would have been a sort of, I mean, we know how talented O'Connor is. He can play over across the back line, can't he? So that would have been a 15 for 15. So what happens now? Pattaya is a centre. You've got Karevi and Ikitau out and out centres. I wonder if maybe one of them moves to the wing. Kellaway drops back to fullback. Pattaya comes into the midfield.
Kellaway, for me, has to go to 15. I think so. And then I would move Jordan Pattaya into... What do you put him onto the wing, or move Ikitau out to the wing? I'm not quite sure, but we're talking about Pattaya, who's such a young, talented player, but we're talking about a young, talented player stepping into a cauldron of the first test of what is a massive series. But looking at how they're lining up now, it doesn't look to be too much change. In fact, Jordan Petaia has gone to the right wing, done exactly what you just predicted there. Kellaway to 15.
Yeah. So 22-year-old Petaia played against England at the World Cup in 2019 as a teenager. Petaia, he is on. Australia 0, England 6. 21 minutes gone. 2 Owen Farrell penalties. England getting on top of the scrum now, are they? They've got another penalty. No, it's gone Australia's way. Penalty to Australia. It looked like England were getting a bit of dominance there, Natasha Hunt, but it's a penalty to the Wallabies and a much-needed chance for Australia to get on the board and try and just regain some composure, because they've had a lot of distractions, a lot of things not going their way in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, they really have. That scrum was an absolute mess. Ellis Genge was actually scrummaging against no one, so you can see why they're so aggrieved there. But interesting decision for me. Every other option they've gone into corner. This one is definitely kickable. Are they going to take the 3?
Back to Naomi Cavaday watching Katie Boulter on court 2.
Yeah, that set is wrapped up, and it was 6-1 to Harmony Tan, ranked 115 in the world. Not very good for Boulter. She looks laboured in her movement, looks a little bit flat out there. She's really got to change things very, very quickly, because she'll be running out of time soon enough. That's the first set to Harmony Tan, 6-1.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Back with Naomi to see if Katie Boulter can launch a fight back at Wimbledon. And as we're hearing from Ellie Alderweireld at Edgbaston, history made in the Test match as Stuart Broad goes for 35 off and over, which is Test match cricket history. Never before has so many runs been conceded off and over in Test cricket. It's happened in one days and T20s. Broad himself once conceded 36 in a T20, but never in a Test match. As Loliseo for Australia, 23 minutes gone in Perth. The Australia 10 drafted in after Cooper's injury in the warm-up. Nice nerve-settling kick for Loliseo. Australia on the board, and after 23, how should we call them, slightly clunky minutes, Ugo Monye, it's Australia 3, England 6.
Yes, I think it's a fair reflection. Both teams have had chances, but only one gilt-edged chance, with Tom Curry and a brilliant tackle from Koroibete denying Joe Marchant. But yet 6-3 after 23 minutes.
England kick off, they go deep and Australia set it up. Maro Itoje making the tackle. Michael Hooper in the thick of things, as he so often is for Australia. Hooper, the Wallaby captain, winning his 119th cap as White hoists it into the Perth sky. Forward comes Freddie Stewart. He eats these for breakfast, Stewart, and he takes that regally. There for Danny Kerr. Kerr to Will Stewart's having a decent game. That's Ellis Genge there driving on. Stewart is assisting in the ruck. Now Owen Farrell throws a dummy. Smith was lurking out the back, as they've been doing a lot today. Kerr now, Johnny Hill with a carry. He's burst over the gain line, the Exeter man. Kerr now looking to snipe, but he slips. There was a lot of slipping going on in the State of Origin on this turf, and it's happening again tonight. Not rolling away against Australia, so England have a penalty advantage. Will Danny Kerr look to go quickly here? No, he passes out to his forwards, who drive on, almost up to the 22, England. Itoje, the dummy runner. Smith, the first receiver, kicks for Marchant. That's come loose. It's gathered by Australia. No advantage. Back for the penalty. Another chance for points for Owen Farrell.
We've had about 5 penalties in this game, 3 in the scrum, all on that right side for England, the left side for Australia, and 2 the others for Australia have been at the breakdown, got to roll away quicker. We're 24 minutes into this match and not been able to adapt at this point, especially when it's a good aggressive tackle, but the work you have to do on the floor after you make the tackle. This is, in fact, all 3 penalties for England at this point have been soft, poor penalties from Australian perspective.
Yeah, they really have. They're just giving each team a lifeline, aren't they? And it's crazy to think, because for me, Australia have had barely any possession, barely any territory, and they're sat 3-6 in this game. Really important now that they just start to just hone in on that. It's so easy to fix stuff like that when the referee's consistent. You've just got to back it up, and you've just got to get out of there.
Well, it's a disaster for Australia, because now Alan Atoa's going off. James Slipper will come on, the veteran prop, who actually played against England as way back as 2010. He's coming on after 25 minutes. They've lost Cooper in the warm-up. James O'Connor, I'm reading, was in a pre-match function, and he had to rush from this function to go and get his kit on to be on the bench.
He sprinted into the change room with his chinos in his hands.
So they've lost Cooper, so O'Connor's had to come onto the bench. Loliseo starts. They've lost Tom Banks, the fullback. Now they've lost Alatoa, their starting tight head, so James Slipper's going to have to go 55 minutes plus against an England side that's got the likes of Mako Vunipola and Luke Cowan-Dickie on the bench. Anyway, Farrell for 3, 26 minutes gone on 5 Live. Bang in front, ever so slightly to the right perhaps, in between the 22 and the 10-metre line. He gobbles these up, Owen Farrell, but he may have pulled this to the left, the classic commentator's curse. He's missed it, and it'll be dotted down by Andrew Kellaway for a 22.
22.
And it stays at 6-3, Natasha Hunt.
I think clunky was the right word that you used earlier. Hoping that this game's going to start lighting up. For me, England were much more abrasive in their attack then. They were really dominant with their carries. They were challenging the gain line, which started to open it up. Need to see more of the same from them.
Long kick-off. Was that Nick White taking the restart? Strange to see a scrum half taking the 22. But Australia in all kinds of disarray. If they can win from here, it'll be a fine effort from the Wallabies. Fine effort from England if they do it too on Wallaby soil. Looks like Billy Vunipola perhaps wanted a penalty there, but no, the referee was happy the Australians were legal. So Kerr decides to box kick, just playing a bit of territory England. Nicely weighted that from Kerr, a big area of improvement in his game as he continues to age like a fine wine, Danny Kerr, at the age of 35. Therefore, Nick White, carried on by the Australian forwards. As we approach the half-hour mark, with England leading by 3 in Perth. Kerevi kicks, Hugo.
Yeah, interesting. The last 2 kicks have come from Kerevi and come from Nick White. Lolesio actually just stepping out more of a distributor at the moment, so he's not taking responsibility of clearing his lines as England turn the ball over.
England have lost the ball. Kerevi kicks again from scrum half. I mean, don't want to be too harsh, but the game is lacking a bit of structure and quality at the moment. Marchant kicks. There's a phalanx of Wallabies back there, including Lolesio, including Pataya, who kicks. Marcus Smith, though, is in the backfield. He's got Freddie Stewart with him. He's going to put it into the air here. Smith asking Stewart to chase. Might ask a bit much there of Freddie Stewart. It's gone a tad too far. Lolesio takes. Nice offload from Lolesio to Kerevi. 10-metre line, and Nick White finding his forwards. There's Michael Hooper distributing. Cleared again by Australia from their own half. Lots of kicking, but a tad on the aimless side. Then Smith puts his boot through it, and back goes Andrew Kellaway, who burst on the scene last year. It will be cleared again by Australia, looking for touch. No, taken by Farrell, who does well to keep it in. Now can England spark an attack? Freddie Stewart up from fullback, tackled by Kellaway. Neville, the debutant, was in there as well. Kerr digs for it, but he's hardly got any options to the left. He does find Genge, who's going to try and put a bit of pace on the ball and does a pretty decent job. Halfway line for Kerr, to the left to clubmate Smith. That's a decent pass out to Curry. Curry finds Marchant, who's playing a lot on the touchlines here, Joe Marchant, but the Wallaby counter ruck is excellent as England really start to lose their shape here.
They've turned it over. Michael Hooper's done a brilliant job. Oh no, England have, in fact, it seems to be 50-50 at the minute, but Danny Kerr gets the ball away.
He does. Itoje to Smith, bit of loose ball for England, but Genge couldn't quite link. Picked up by Stewart, the powerful fullback. Kerr, 10-metre line in Australian territory. Smith's pass is poor behind Farrell. It's been knocked on, so this game needs to improve, doesn't it, Natasha?
It really does. Just the handling, the quality of it, not just the pass behind, but as Owen Farrell's turned to try and catch it, he's been absolutely slotted in the back, so he will not thank his half-back partner for that. It just looks like England are lacking numbers. They look a little bit fatigued, they look a bit tired out there. Passes just on the shoulder, not in front of the player running onto the ball, so it's just stifling their attack slightly at the moment. It's just lack of accuracy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a combination of lack of connectivity and attack, as well as the speed of ball being so slow, so it's actually disabling both sides from being able to play the fast attack and exciting rugby that we're used to seeing.
Let's go back to Wimbledon. How's Katie Boulter getting on in the second set, Naomi?
It's still a struggle. She's down a break at the beginning of the second set, down 2-1, but she did just put a much better game on the board, a lot more energy. She's now running about the place. She is desperate to improve her level, so she trails Harmony Tan by a set and 2-1, but things looking a little more positive right now.
Australia feed the scrum. Thanks, Naomi. Back with Naomi to see if Katie Boulter can get back into that one against Harmony Tan. Australia looking for a bit of territory, and they find it. Jack Noel perhaps caught out of position ever so slightly. Good kick from Samu Kerevi, who's showing his skills as a footballer, and England are pinned onto their own 22. England have had a lot of this game, but it's still only a 3-point lead for Eddie Jones's men. Australia 3, England 6. Natasha Hunt.
Kerevi's had the ball 4 times in the last, I reckon, 5-6 minutes, and he's kicked it every single time. 1 box kick, 3 from open play. Interesting to see, because obviously he's such a good runner, ball in hand. He's got unbelievable skill set, so I'd like to see him take the line on a little bit more as well. Australia get a little bit of possession, try and get through some phases in this first half. Sorry.
Laws at the front of the line now, the voice of England's scrum half, Natasha Hunt, World Cup winner in 2014, multiple Grand Slam winner, eyeing up another World Cup. Natasha, after being named in the England training squad yesterday.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Not sure when selection's out, but I'll be doing everything I can over the summer.
I know you will, as Australia drive on over halfway. Can the Wallabies put a bit of pace on this? Maybe Kurabetti's the man. He links with White. That's better from Australia as they go to within 30 metres. The last bit of quick ball for Australia. What can they do? Slipper out to Lolaseo. Kerevi into Farrell, a meeting of the 2 number 12s. Therefore, Noah Lolaseo driven on again by the Australian forwards. Billy Vunipola's looking to steal, but he was told to get away by the referee. Posted out the back by Angus Bell, now driven on by the Australian forwards. Lovely offload, and Bell's got it back, and Angus Bell's one-on-one with Stewart here. He gets a brilliant offload to Valentini. Great rugby Australia as the game explodes into life at last. Parecki, 5 metres out the Wallabies, they look for the lead. They've got the advantage. Nick White, he swings it to the right. They've got numbers, have they? Out to Kerevi. Kerevi can't get the offload in as Stokanasiga gambled off his wing and did well. England trying to slow it down. Still advantage to the Wallabies. They're only 12 metres out or so. Hooper runs into the aforementioned Stokanasiga, who's trying to get involved, having not had much ball in open play. Therefore, White. Neville, the debutant, at 33. Well tackled by Curry, who dived at the feet of Neville. That one's come loose, and surely that's got to be the end of the advantage. Oh, he said the advantage is over, which is
not much of an advantage.
Interesting call for the referee, yeah. Australia would have loved that advantage. It was only 5 metres out. Now they're 25 metres out, and the sting has gone from their attack as Ikitau is felled. Just short of the 22. Oh no, he's got another advantage now. So I think actually when he says you've got the advantage, he meant the advantage was ongoing.
Yeah.
And we're going back, aren't we, Natasha?
I think he was just letting Nick White know that if he wanted the penalty, he has it. So they could have opted to say it. Like, quite often nines will look at the referee, say, we'll take the advantage, which I'm surprised that they didn't, to be honest. It's a bit of afters we're seeing on the telly at the minute. Johnny Hill just arms around. It's getting really physical out there, isn't it?
Got to say, it's once again the just usual protagonist for Australia. It was started off by Korobetti, then Kerevi, that injection of power, and actually then playing a little bit more direct to the ruck. We've seen lots of balls going from west coast to east coast or east to west, and it hasn't really worked. But being physical, simplifying things is where Australia have looked at their very best. Now, an interesting decision, as Margaret Hooper points to the sticks, in a 3-6 match at the moment, an opportunity to get all things squared, whilst fluency has really been lacking this first half.
Do you think that's the right decision, the momentum with them?
I think so, because scrum's been a lottery, penalty, free kick, penalty. The line-out's been a lottery, and no one's really been able to impose themselves physically on the game. Attack is something which I think confidence is so instrumental too, and both sides wouldn't be. But there's a current TMO check at the moment. It's been taken up to see whether it was perhaps from that last one you mentioned, it with Johnny Hill and Swain in the line-up, but the rest paused this match just to have a look.
I'm booed with you, Natasha. I wonder if I don't think Australia are going to win this game with penalty goals. I wonder whether, you know, if it does get tight, it's England's game. So we're seeing a replay of Hill pulling at the hair. You picked it up, Natasha, at the time. Yeah, you're right. It's on Darcy Swain. Well, this is an interesting one. I haven't seen many hair pulls.
We saw a penalty and a yellow card given in the semi-final of the Gallagher Premiership just a few weeks ago, but this is afters now. Is it anything more than pushing and shoving? But
it's a headbutt. Oh.
It's a headbutt. He's gone.
BP, can I just actually see
Let's listen to the officials. So we've had Johnny Hill pulling at the hair of Swain.
Okay.
Then we've had afters, and we've had a headbutt.
Yes.
Now Hill doesn't go down, he gesticulates to the officials. It's not the most forceful headbutt, but it's still a clear headbutt.
Penalty to England. Yeah. Okay, so we got So a yellow card to 5 white.
Yes.
And then a red card to 4
Right.
gold. Do you agree with where we're going with this, BP? Okay.
Here are the officials.
Okay, I'll deal with the first thing. We need 5 white. Okay, so obviously there's a hair pull, so it's a yellow card for that.
Yellow card for Johnny Hill, but there's more to come.
No, it's a headbutt.
Johnny Hill
Mate,
for the hair pull.
Obviously there's the hair pull, all right? He's going to get yellow carded for that, but then you've headbutted him, red card.
Red card for Darcy Swain. Massive moment in this test match. Johnny Hill yellow carded for pulling the hair of Darcy Swain, who's retaliated seconds later with a headbutt.
15.
And Swain has been sent off
mark,
on his
please,
11th cap,
DP.
the Brumby lock, sent off for a headbutt. Australia will play more than 40 minutes
Just say
with
yes, let's
14
cut him in
men.
and out.
I've got to say,
Back
Dolman, the
closer to the
referee,
22.
has got that absolutely spot on.
15 metres
Dolman's
backwards.
only reacted because of Johnny Hill.
Jack.
We know you just can't pull the hair.
back.
So Johnny Hill's gone for that. A yellow card, I think, is fair, but you cannot headbutt. And it was an absolute head loss from Swain. He would have had the penalty as well as the yellow. But now, as you've mentioned, on his 11th cap in a game which hasn't really been on fire. Australia have struggled in so many aspects, and we know the battle in the tight 5 was going to be important. They're going to have to, if they're to win this match, do it 14 men and crucially 7 in the forward pack.
Massively, and as we've mentioned as well, the line-out and the scrummers both struggled, both sides of the ball, so Australia have a huge mountain to climb now.
And England have the line-out, they win it in the middle of it. Billy Vanapola linking with Jamie George as England go almost up to the 22, but that's loose from England, who just, bar the odd little passage here and there, have been remarkably disconnected. They lead by 3, but Australia have gone from a penalty 5 metres out to a TMO review, a television match official review, which has shown a red card for a headbutt to Darcy Swain, Johnny Hill in the sin bin for a hair pull. So Australia have gone from 15 against 15 and potentially 6 all to being 6-3 down and losing a man for the rest of the game.
Should have taken the points. And none of this would have happened. You know, we were debating it, but next up is a scrum. And Bell's just chatting to Nick White about the delivery they wanted. They're obviously underpowered, only having 7 in the forward backs. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to bring anyone in from the backs to go 8v8. In fact, Kellaway, who has been everywhere, started on the right wing, now he's gone to fullback. He's now packing down on the blindside flank to go 8v8. And England, well, they'll be sniffing blood and no doubt go after the Australian forward pack.
Australia scrum, huge development to the end of this reasonably forgettable first half. The ball's come out the tunnel and Kerr has played away, but it did go out the tunnel, and yeah, Danny's been around long enough to know that the ball can't come out the tunnel. But in true scrum half fashion, Natasha Hunt, what was wrong with that kind of thing?
Play to the whistle always. I love the reaction and how quickly they've gone straight into attack. Brilliant play by Danny Kerr. Just spots it, snipes around the back, finds his half-back partner in Marcus Smith.
And just on Darcy Swain, Hugo, you just got to keep your cool. He's annoyed that he's had his hair pulled, but you've got to trust the TMO process, haven't you?
And had he done that, England would be down to 14 men, you know. I was just going to say I feel for him, but when you're a fully fledged international, you should know better. You should know better. It's easy saying it from here with a microphone in my hand, but yeah, he'll be so disappointed in himself.
Well, it's 14 on 14 because for the next 7 minutes, Hill is in the sin bin for England. Karevi kicks again. He's their most potent ball-in-hand threat, but he's been their chief kicker in the last 10 minutes or so, Samu Karevi. Stewart then kicks. Lolaseo takes. He swings it inside. Great pick-up, Andrew Kellaway, who's playing at full-back, and it's been knocked on. So many knock-ons, this one by Karevi. And England, with 3 minutes left of this first half, have a very dangerous scrum. They've got to try and strike here. Bang in centre field, 25 metres out.
We haven't really seen any scrum attack yet from this England backline. Really good work from Mario Itoje, just targeting the ball as Karevi's carrying into the breakdown, but we haven't seen England light up from a scrum. It's a brilliant attacking opportunity. They can send 1-2 to the short side. They've got a whole backline ready to go. Marcus Smith, I want to see him hands on the ball. I want to see him attacking. But yeah, it's struggling to get going this game, isn't it?
And we were talking about Australia being in a somewhat in disarray, losing Cooper in the warm-up, Banks to a broken arm or fractured wrist or worse. Alalato has gone off, and Swain's been sent off. So if you're Dave Rennie, Hugo, how do you reflect on that? The fact they're only 6-3 down is the big positive if he's going to cling to one.
Yeah, I think he'll be so frustrated because whatever game plan they've worked on the last couple of weeks, we've not seen it. In terms of discipline, that's not been good enough. Set piece has been poor, and the other one to put in terms of who they're missing is Tanela Tupac. Tongan Thor, he would have been massive for this scrum as it's getting absolutely destroyed by England. England play away.
Yeah, Vunipola finds Kerr. What have England got? Farrell loops with Kerr, who tries to kick, and that's gone loose. And yeah, nothing's really happening for either side with the ball. It's a different game to what we saw earlier in Auckland. New Zealand and Ireland playing with slickness and with accuracy. This one has been nothing of the sort. Australia 3, England 6, and yeah, I'm sure it'll burst into life after half-time, Mo.
Here's hoping, because I think in pre-match, in the warm-up, in the build-up, everyone's been talking about the attacking opportunity that this England team has. Similarly with Australia, both teams that want to attack ball in hand, that have been brilliant on paper, as we keep mentioning, the back lines especially. Just, we want to see it light up, and I think that's why it's a little bit frustrating, because we haven't seen that yet.
Mo, for all the quality, that's undoubted on paper, the way in which both sides play. How tough is it? Because Australia haven't played international rugby since November. This England team haven't played together since March. So despite the quality, the amount of caps and the experience, how hard is it to get that first match and get those connections together?
Yeah, it is, but also there's some non-negotiables for me, which is catch pass, put the ball out in front of your player, take somebody on, make sure you're getting over the gain line, accuracy at the breakdown, like you saw Jamie George just now come off the back of the maul, and he literally threw the ball on the floor, which resulted in a knock-on. Little things like that are just, for me, non-negotiable. Like, you've got to be better in your skills.
So those unforced errors we shouldn't be seeing?
100%, not at this level, not with the quality of players out on the pitch.
We're almost at half-time. I think Australia will just take the half, won't they, as Valentini, good carry off the base of the scrum from the Australian number 8 as we tick towards half-time. White is caught, 8 seconds left, so if you are Andrew Kellaway, who's in at scrum half, I'm sure you just want the half-time hooter. They've got an advantage to Australia, so they could kick to the corner or into England territory and get a line out, or they could just take the half-time. It's a penalty to Australia. Now, if you're Australia, I think you've got to have a bit of ambition here. Try and kick long, try and force a line out, and try and just put a bit of pressure back on England at the half.
Take as much of this as you can. If it stays in field, England will boot it off, we'll get to half-time. But it's an opportunity. Kellaway, who'd been kicking for touch, was poor and not taking many metres off. Lolesea now steps up. He does marginally better, so they're now in between the 22 and the halfway line, and one opportunity before they head into the sheds.
Surprised not to see Karevi lining that up, considering he's kicked everything. But yeah, it's a good attacking opportunity. Like you say, shot to nothing. If they get a penalty, they can kick the 3. Otherwise, England, if they get a turnover, they're going to kick the ball out. Yeah,
and both teams down a second row at the moment, remember. Hill still 3 minutes left on his sin bin. Swain, the Australia lock, sent off as they work a little move at the front of the line now. Parecki down this left touchline. Therefore, White into centre field. What have the Wallabies got? Australia 3, England 6. Last play of this first half. Good carry, Valentini. Just short of the 22 as England tried to steal. But they're on the wrong side there. That is a blatant penalty against Tom Curry.
Tom Curry, I mean, it's really, really good, slick 3 phases from Australia. Valentini, we spoke to Drew Mitchell as someone to watch. That was a mighty burst through the guts of England. Curry, discipline and decision-making at the breakdown. He wasn't on the ball, as we're seeing a replay there.
Yeah, it's Leota carrying rather than Valentini.
He goes for another little dabble, and then he actually steals the ball when he finally gets off his feet. That's when the clock is in the red to gift Australia an opportunity. It's another one of those unforced errors.
We're going to go to a wicket at the cricket any moment now, but let's see if Lolesea can kick this with the last play of this first half. Big carry from Rob Leota there, and Curry on the wrong side, or off his feet, then lost his feet. Blatant penalty, and England, having had a lot of this first half, are going to go in level at 6-all. It's all happening. We've got a wicket in the cricket. We've also got Katie Bolter on the brink at Wimbledon. Lolesea from bang in front. Will he nail this? He has a long, hard look at it. This for 6-all. Up he steps, straight through. Let's go to Wimbledon. Naomi Cavaday.
It's all over for Katie Boulter. She really was nowhere near herself. A subpar performance doesn't quite cover it. We're not sure what was wrong, whether it was illness, injury or whatever it was, but it is Harmony Tan, the giant slayer of this year's tournament, taking out Serena Williams in round 1. She's now into the last 16 for the first time, and she won 6-1, 6-1.
Thanks very much, Naomi. And a wicket in the cricket for you, Elliot Edgbaston.
Yeah, Alex Lees is out, bowled by Jasprit Bumrah, who's having a great morning of it. Alex Lees out for 6. England are 16 for 1. Zach Crawley still there on 7. It started to rain. The covers are coming on. England 16 for 1. 400 runs behind India.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Back with you in a second, Ellie, but Natasha Hunt, who came on your right. Let's pick through that first 40.
Won't take long.
Well, I mean, not much to report from a kind of thrilling rugby point of view. Australia 6, England 6. But we've had red cards, we've had yellow cards, we've had injuries. I mean, the fact England, firstly on England, they should be well clear, shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they've only had one clear opportunity, though, where Tom Curry slid through, really nice ball from Farrell. That should have been finished. You don't get many opportunities at Test match rugby like that. You've got to pick the right man. You've got to find a way to finish those off.
Yeah, that has pretty much been it. That has been it in a game which looked really tense and really tight. You aren't going to get many opportunities. We're seeing shots of Australia in the change, and we kind of wonder what the messages are going to be, because you kind of want to go through all the little subheadings and sections. Set piece, probably 6 out of 10. Kick chase, well, doesn't seem to be much of a kick strategy, just whoever kind of fancies it. Defence, well, no one's really massively been tested. And then discipline for me is a huge one. I've had Swain for a red card. Both teams are giving away soft penalties, so that's a real area for improvement. From an England perspective, I think they know they've got the bees in the Australia team, especially now down to 40 minutes. But can they be composed enough and patient enough to wait to take their opportunities and then have the level of execution which often went amiss in the Six Nations?
Lovely stuff, Ugo Monye, Natasha Hunt. We will have second half commentary in about 10 minutes or so. Australia 6, England 6. Gigi Salmon coming from Wimbledon.
Chris, thank you very much. And it all happened at the end of that half in the rugby. You heard Naomi Cavaday with the wrapping up of the exit of Katie Boulter. And just, Naomi, let's put a little bit more meat on the bones of what was a 51-minute exit for the British player. Yeah, it's hard really to put meat on the bones of that one, because it was incredibly rapid, extraordinarily one-sided. It wasn't competitive at all. We can only assume that Boulter was injured or ill, or there's definitely something going on, because she doesn't play like that normally. It's not like she got overwhelmed by the Harmony Tan game, although we saw 2 fabulous tweeners from Tan, and one of them she won the point, so she really was playing very, very well. It wasn't going to be an easy test for Boulter, but yeah, a very disappointing performance for her.
And a story we'll start to talk about, the fact there are no points this year. This would have earned Harmony Tan, who's outside the world's top 100, 280 points. Remember, she beat Serena Williams in the first round. No points at this year's Wimbledon. Just to quickly let you know that on court 3, Christian Garin is a set-up on Jensen Brooksby. Brooksby is a 29th seed. They're on serve early stages of the second. And on court 18, Jack Sock is a set-down to Jason Kubler, but Sock is a break-up in the middling stages of the second set. Right, let's get an update from the cricket at Edgbaston with Ellie Aldroyd.
Yeah, it's been an eventful hour and a half. The covers are coming on here now, Gigi. Bit of a delay for rain, so we may take an early lunch, but India all out for 416. So Jadeja out for 104, bowled by Anderson. Mohammed Shami caught by Leach off Broad for 16, and then utter carnage between the final wicket pair of Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammed Siraj, an over which went for 35 runs off Stuart Broad with the new ball, including 18 of 2 legitimate deliveries. So that included 7 no balls and 5 wides, also 4 fours and a 6 in that over to Jasprit Bumrah. So he finished 31 not out. Mohammed Siraj, the last man to fall, caught by Broad off Anderson for 2. Jimmy Anderson finishing with 5 for 60, so a 5 for, which kind of slightly escaped all of us because of the utter destruction out there in the middle. But Alex Lees and Zach Crawley coming out to open for England, and Lees bowled by Bumrah for 6. So the stand-in India captain has had a busy morning with the bat and with the ball. Crawley is on 7. Ollie Pope yet to face a delivery, and England 16 for 1, and we will hopefully resume before too long.
Ali, thank you very much. And the cricket, when it resumes, will be on Sports Extra. You can join the TMS team now. So we'll be back with the second half of commentary, England against Australia, shortly. We'll also get the latest from Wimbledon, where Liam Brodie will be looking and hoping to join Cameron Norrie and Heather Watson in the round of 16 at Wimbledon. He faces Alex de Minaur on court 1 from 1 o'clock. But first, here on 5 Live, it's just gone midday, so let's get the news with Simon English.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Russian state media say another 2 British men have been charged with being foreign fighters by pro-Kremlin rebels in eastern Ukraine. Dylan Healy and Andrew Hill are understood to be facing the same accusations as 2 other British men, Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner, who've been both sentenced to death. Dominic Byrne from the aid organisation The Presidium Network says he's been in touch with Mr Healy's family and knows the charges are false.
We know definitely that Dylan Healy was nothing to do with the military, no connection to the Ukraine military or in any of the foreign legions, that he was there as a volunteer helping evacuations. So the charges of being a mercenary is absolutely irrelevant.
A parliamentary watchdog is going to examine allegations of sexual misconduct by the former Conservative Deputy Chief Whip, Chris Pincher. He resigned this week after being accused of groping 2 men at a private members' club and has now been suspended from the party. Mr Pincher is the MP for Tamworth, where these people aren't impressed by the claims.
I think it's disgraceful and it is now time he left.
I still vote for Tory, but I'm unsure about Chris Pincher.
It's up to the higher-up people now to condemn him. Personally, I think he should finish now with being a Conservative, but even an MP.
NHS staff in England will lose special sick pay arrangements for COVID absence and self-isolation this month, but the Royal College of Nursing says its members are still being disproportionately affected by the virus. The NHS says thousands more people have visited its bowel cancer symptoms webpage since the death of Dame Deborah James on Tuesday. The podcast host dedicated the last years of her life to raising awareness of the disease. And hundreds of people are expected to gather in East London shortly for a silent vigil in memory of murdered law graduate Zara Alina. She was killed last weekend while walking home in Ilford. Her family are asking people to walk the remainder of her journey together.
Just say play BBC News to most smart speakers and you'll get the latest national, international and now local stories that matter to you.
Hello, this is BBC News. Our top stories.
For your news when you want it, just say play BBC News.
Wimbledon 2022 with Gigi Salmon on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Welcome back. It's currently Australia 6, England 6 in the first test. Second half of the rugby to come. Commentary for you here on 5 Live. The news from Wimbledon is that Katie Boulter is out, losing to Serena Williams conqueror Harmony Tan in straight sets in under an hour, 51 minutes on the clock, 6-1, 6-1. We have Liam Brodie to come against Katie Boulter's boyfriend, the Australian Alex de Minaur. That's at 1 o'clock over on court 1. But it is a busy day of sport. We've also got qualifying at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Now that's coming your way at 3 o'clock. Coverage on the BBC Sport website and app with updates, of course, here on 5 Live. And our 5 Live F1 team, former Renault driver Jolyon Palmer, commentator Harry Benjamin and reporter Jenny Gow are there for us.
Yeah, grey clouds overhead, and unfortunately it looks like it may rain a little later on, but Jolyon Palmer alongside me, you're pretty confident that we're not going to get a deluge today, despite me thinking it's going to be quite a wet qualifying.
Jen, I'm never confident in anything about the British weather, to be clear, but it's unknown, and that's, I think, what you can normally say about British summer, the weather. But it's amazing to be here anyway. 400,000 people here this weekend. It's packed out, rain or shine. It's a fast circuit that everyone enjoys driving, and qualifying later on is going to be fascinating.
Now, we know Lewis Hamilton has a tradition of going well here. He's won 8 times, which is a stonking amount. We're standing just by the motorhome. Can Mercedes do something this weekend? Because that's been the big talking point coming into this when it comes to racing and form.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter about Mercedes this weekend. They've got 2 British drivers, of course, not only Lewis Hamilton, but George Russell in the car as well, who's ahead of Lewis in the standings coming to Silverstone, which is unusual for Lewis to be behind a teammate. They had a better day yesterday, and they bought a few upgrades to the car, some quite sizable ones that they thought would improve the car, and it looked that way. And Hamilton was second quickest in practice yesterday, so they're definitely buoyed. Can they get on terms with Red Bull and Ferrari? I don't know about the qualifying pace, absolutely, but I would say the race pace is looking more encouraging, and hopefully they can be in the fight.
I mean, this championship now coming into this round, it feels like it's Red Bull versus Ferrari. This time last year, of course, it was Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen going for the championship, and they had a big crash on lap 1. But this year, it's changed. It is a different battle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Max Verstappen still there. He's looking even more confident than he was last year when he went on to win the title. But he's got a new rival, Charles Leclerc, in the Ferrari. And, I mean, early on in this season, Leclerc was running away with it. Ferrari with a massive upturn in form, won 2 of the first 3 races, big championship lead. And in the last 6 races, it's been absolutely wiped out and turned on its head. Now it's Verstappen that looks really strong, with Ferrari having a lot of issues, engine problems, strategy malfunctions in Monaco as well. So Leclerc's on the back foot, but he's a brilliant driver. And he's a driver that's a match, I think, for Max Verstappen, in a team that has a car that's a match for Verstappen as well. And his qualifying pace is what's really set him aside this season. So I expect he'll be a threat today in qualifying for pole position again. Can he match Verstappen and take some points out of the Red Bull man tomorrow? That's the big question.
Certainly is. My big question is, am I going to get wet in qualifying? I think the chances are pretty high. Gets underway at 3 o'clock as Sir Jackie Stewart with his blue, red and green tartan walks past me. Plenty of stars here today, but who will shine brightest in qualifying?
When there's sport taking place in this country, we always have to have a conversation about the weather, and it's normally about whether it's going to rain or not. Now, you're going to be able to hear the final free practice session on the BBC Sport website and app right now. So Jenny thinks she will get wet. I'm quietly confident, despite the fact I'm in a commentary box, that we're going to avoid the rain, although I've probably jinxed it now, and the heavens will open. If we go back to Edgbaston, Ellie, you have got the rain.
Yeah, we've got the rain. A bit further up the M40 from Jenny, and we've got this big band. I don't want to sound like a meteorologist, but this big band of rain which is sweeping across kind of west to east, and we're just on the fringes of that here in Birmingham at the moment. So the covers are on. We're going to take an early lunch at 12:15, we're told, or the players will anyway, and we might go and get some as well. But what a bonkers hour and a half we had this morning. India all out for 416 in the end, and England 16 for 1 when rain stopped play. But it was all about, really, well, it was Ravi Jadeja getting a century, 104, his first century against England, and then it was all about Jasprit Bumrah. And one of the most insane overs you will ever see. Stuart Broad with a new ball just after he'd taken his 550th wicket in Test cricket. He then goes for 35 in 1 over, which is a record. Ebony Rainford Brent sitting alongside me. I mean, what was going on with that, with Stuart Broad and that new ball to Jasprit Bumrah?
Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? You get the new ball, and normally you'd expect bowlers to pitch it up, go for that classic wicket, especially as they were fresh to the crease. So, you know, classic bowling. And actually, he went for the sort of short tactic, was trying to rough him up. Well, the captain, Jasprit Bumrah, felt very differently. He fancied cashing in. He was inspired, I think, by Rishabh Pant yesterday, and just decided to take him on. It was so much fun to watch. He was throwing the kitchen sink and connecting with everything. But for England, though, you know, that over, England could have bowled them out for 375-ish and ended up being well into the 400s, and has changed the tone of this game. So Stuart Broad is going to scratch his head thinking, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Should have kept it simple.
It was mad. I mean, there were 5 wides, so kind of way up high, went to the boundary, so signalled wides. That was 5 wides. Then 7 no balls as well, so went for 6, and then the umpires called a no ball. So at one stage there were 18 scored off just 2 legitimate deliveries. So it went 4, 5 wides, 7 no balls, 4, 4, 4, and at one point Bumrah was knocked himself off balance and actually brushed the stumps with the toe of his boot. Bales didn't come off, so he was still in. Then another 6, and then a 1 at the end. Scrambled single, which ended up with Mohammad Siraj at the other end diving in, with Stuart Broad diving as well. And in the midst of all of this, final wicket falls of Siraj, caught Broad bowled Anderson. It's another 5 for Jimmy Anderson.
Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? And it's his 50th Test wicket on this particular ground as well. He is just a legend, isn't he? I think he kept it a bit simpler. He kept the ball up there swinging. So well done to him. But I think on the other side, England have got a bit of work to do with the bat later on.
Yeah, well, they are going to have to take that positive approach as well, we assume. But they've already lost Alex Lees. Bowled by Jasprit Bumrah, classic delivery, bowled through the gate.
Yeah, movement. I'm a bit worried, actually. Jasprit Bumrah has a bit more pace than the England bowlers, and we saw that rush Alex Lees. bit of movement off the surface, so there's a bit of danger with the rain around that actually bowling comes into the favour of the Indians, and they might really capitalise on it in the first innings against England.
Well, we'll see whether it's jazz ball or baz ball this afternoon. We saw a jazz ball from Jasprit Bumrah, the Indian captain. He kind of loves batting, doesn't he, in this country? And India, I think, on top, 16 for 1 England, and we will have an early lunch, as we say.
An early lunch sounds very nice. Ellie, thank you very much. And don't forget the cricket, when it resumes, will be on Sports Extra, so you can join the TMS team, and also you can listen via BBC Sounds. Tennis continues here. The next commentary for you will be Alex Manor against the Brit Liam Brodie, looking to join Cameron Norrie and Heather Watson, the round of 16 at Wimbledon. They're due out on court at 1 o'clock as the grey skies bubble up around SW19. But it's time now for the second half of our rugby commentary. England take on Australia with Ugo Monye, Natasha Hunt and your commentator Chris Jones.
Thank you very much, Gigi. England are out, Australia are out. Australia with that last gasp penalty in the first half, levelling the scores at 6-all, but loads to pick apart after a very messy first half. A yellow card for Johnny Hill for a hair pull. He'll be back on shortly, but a red card for Darcy Swain for a crazy headbutt. So the Australians will be down to 14 for the rest of this first test, which is poised at 6 points all. And really, Ugo and Natasha, if you're England, with the injuries Australia have suffered, with the got to put the Wallabies away now in the second half, haven't they?
Have to. It's like anything but a win is not an option now. With the way which Australia have misfired, down to 14 men, and for people who haven't seen it, when we say headbutt, it was the least aggressive headbutt, but still a headbutt in the game, which is outlawed.
Yeah, still absolutely no complaints from, I imagine, anyone on the Australian side of things, as the Wallabies kick off, and Danny Kerr has it at the base of the ruck, and he pops it out to Ellis Genge, one of the vice-captains in this England outfit, which is led by Courtney Lawes today rather than Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell urged by Eddie Jones to find his best form. We've not seen that really yet from England at all, as Kerr with a scruffy-looking clearance finds Marika Koroibete, runs into Leota, which kind of sums up the game so far. Minute into this second half, Koroibete runs it back. England give a penalty straight away, and Parecki's hugging this left touchline as the Wallabies have an early chance to go into the lead, would you believe?
They certainly do, and England have made a change. Tom Curry's off, Lewis Ludlam, number 20, Northampton Saints captain, is on the pitch.
Good spot, Ugo, as Wallabies continue to attack in the 22. They're looking quite slick here, Australia. Here's the other lock, the one that stayed on the pitch, Caden Neville. White now, snappy pass out to Karevi. At last, Karevi carries the ball rather than kicks it. Still advantage being played to the men in gold. White caught, might have half an opening. Noel comes in off his wing and distracts Ikitau enough for the move to break down, but back Natasha Hunt for the penalty. And can't believe we're saying this, but Australia can kick for the lead.
Absolutely, the best bit of attacking play we've seen as well. Scruffy looking kick, like you said, from Danny Kerr. Didn't quite get the setup. There was nobody in front blocking him, marking that option, so a little bit of pressure coming through, but you'd expect better from him. And really nice handling from Australia. The best line of phases they've strung together in this whole game so far, so fingers crossed there's more of what's to come.
Yeah, I'm certainly hoping that the game actually continues to get better. Jack Noel just receiving a bit of treatment, what looks like a potential dislocated finger. That's going to be a worry, because he's been one of the bright spots for England. Carey been dominant, especially off counter-attack. Koroibete, well, that is Koroibete, who makes England infringe for the first penalty of it, but a far brighter start than what we saw in the first half.
Yeah, that first half was I mean, we were trying to talk at half-time. We're trying to be optimistic. We don't want our listeners to flock elsewhere. It will get better. That's the message. It will get better. Australia 6, England 6, and it's in the balance. It's tight. It's Test match rugby. It's meant to be that way, as Noah Lolaseo has a chance to put the Wallabies into the lead. He's kicked 2 from 2. They've both been regulation, and if you are a young 10 drafted in at the last minute after your starting fly half is injured in the warm-up, these are the kind of kicks you want. Absolutely slap bang in front. You're a bit of a goal kicker, Mo, aren't you?
Used to be. Try to be.
You're
sometimes step up when needed. But yeah, you just want something to settle your nerves. So either it's really wide out that no one expects you to get and you nail it, or straight in front and it's just an absolute sitter.
Yeah, and he has made no mistakes. So Australia lead in Perth. Australia 9, England 6, 3 minutes into this second half. Hill is now back on. England have their full complement of 15, but Australia will be with 14 for the rest of the game. after that Darcy Swain red card for a headbutt. Australia 9, England 6. Farrell restarts, and Noel completes the tackle on Marika Koroibete. And if you're Australia, Ugo Monye, you just want to hang in this and try and frustrate England, who will feel they want to force things a bit with that extra man.
I think they need to play a bit more of a territorial game. Haven't seen lots of kicks from them. We saw the stats at half-time that England dominated territory, 57%, had a little bit more ball. And the other stat that's, for me, really interesting but pertinent is time spent in the 22 to combined 1 minute 10. So whoever controls that middle third will hopefully then create opportunity.
Can England create an opportunity from this attack? Billy Vunipola gives front foot ball to Kerr, who finds Ludlam, the replacement, the Northampton skipper, who is on for Curry. Smith now on the gain line looking to probe. The tackle coming in by Rob Valetini. He's been turned over by Australia. Kellaway's up from full-back. There might be space in the backfield. Farrell has to hair back. Australia play a bit of territory. England just cannot get their fluency going, Natasha.
It's a brilliant attack from turnover. Fantastic vision from Nick White just to send it out nice and wide, and a lovely kick 40 metres down the touchline. But you just can't do that, can you? Test match rugby. Marcus Smith a little bit loose with his ball placement, just absolutely manhandled as he's on the ground, trying to fight to get the ball away because he's isolated. Really good turnover.
Yeah, it was brilliant there from Parecki, but the Battle of the Breakdown hasn't perhaps been spoken about a huge amount this week. Everyone's kind of looked at the outcome, speed of ball, but the Battle of the Breakdown has made this quite turgid, very stop-starting. Marcus Smith, who's on our screens at the moment, shaking his head, frustrated with that mistake. And once again, no one's really had to be able to impose themselves on the game in the attacking third.
Solid drill from England, though, at the line out. George on the money. Now Ludlam finds Billy Vunipola. Now Billy Vunipola's having a big game. A rare bright spark for England, who get a penalty as Danny Kerr is infringed at the base of the ruck. So Kerr couldn't quite play with the pace he wanted because there was an Australian body on the wrong side. So England have an advantage. Billy Vunipola again, such an asset when he's back in the side. Farrell will kick. He's charged down, taken by Stewart. Again, Farrell going to the boot, and it's still in England possession. Now Farrell kicks again, looking for Noel. This one might actually work for Noel. It does sit up, the Wallabies miss it, and Noel is eventually caught by Koroibete, but not before driving almost up to the 22. So one of those kicks does come off for England. Such
clever play by Noel as well, just to look around, just to make sure that he's got support without trying to go head down into the corner, get isolated.
Right, what have England got? They've got penalty advantage, they've got territory, they're only 30 metres out, they're in centre field. Kerr to Smith, Smith out the back to Stewart at first receiver. He swings it over to this left touchline, and Lewis Ludlam with a barrelling carry. But he's bundled into touches, Ludlam, so good defence Australia. Back though, Ugo, for the penalty to England when Australia didn't roll away.
Yeah, two really soft penalties there from Australia, but a lovely searching kick for Jack Noel, who does well, as you said, Mo, just to stay on his feet, and England getting behind this very well-structured Australian defence. But it feels like both sides are more than happy to give away penalties and just stunt any level of attack and flow, because I don't think we've gone past 10 phases at all today. It's been that kind of game.
England will go for the corner, though, over on the far side. Farrell doesn't kick for 9-all. It would have been a tricky one, well within his capabilities. He's gone for the corner.
I like it. 8v7 in the forward pack. England, from the moment that Eddie Jones came in, said England will always be England, and it starts to set piece. They have a brilliant opportunity now from the line out. Expect to drive as Jamie George looks to throw in.
Opportunities don't get better than this as George throws to the returning Hill, who takes it in the middle of the England line out. Heave is the cry from the small posse of travelling England fans to Perth. Good Australia defence, but illegally so. They go in at the side of the maul. England are bundled into touch through George. White has the loose ball, but the referee's seen an offence from Australia. They repelled that England maul illegally, and England will, I suspect, Natasha Hunter and Ugo Monye prod it back into the corner and keep this pressure up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a little bit of eagerness from Hooper swimming up the side, managed to get hands on ball and managed to stunt the attack. But you just can't do that. You've got to stick in it. You've got to come straight through the mark. Definitely going back into corner.
Yeah, I think once you've made this decision now, if you're not taking it 40 metres out on the angle, 5 metres out, you're not then going to take that same option a couple of phases later. So they've popped the ball back into the corner, In fact, they've dropped Lewis Ludlam from this, and they've gone 7v7 in the line-out.
Itoje from George's perfect throw. England setting up the maul as well. England in white, playing from right to left, driving now. That's better body position from the England maul. Ludlam's now in there. George is there. Genge is there. Ellis Genge up to the line. It looks like he's scored for England.
Yes, he has. Can see the ball this near side.
That's going to be given, surely. And it has. Ellis Genge for England. They went to basics. The kick to the corner. The rolling maul. It looks like Genge has come up with the ball, and he's got it down for England's first try, and how they needed that.
Brilliant work from Genge, really good patience from a brilliant rebuttal by Australia initially. They got the march on. England just settled, just waited, dropped body heights, and if you're going to break off the back of the maul, you have to score. It's really good work by Genge, just goes with the wheel, pumps his legs. We've seen him do it time and time again, a fantastic finish.
There's a couple of really good bits of play here in the forward pack. It's just understanding where the seams and weaknesses are, and then the moment Ellis Genge breaks off, Lewis Ludlam dives straight onto him, doubling that body weight through the contact. And whilst it has been stop and start in attack, you don't need any phases when you've got a decent line-out maul there. And England have spotted a weak point and found their way as Ellis Genge scores his first try this year for England.
His fourth in the white, Ellis Genge, who's developed into one of their key players, 37th cap, and he's come up with the key play, but a forward effort. And maybe that's how England are going to win this thing. They've got a man up in the forward pack. They've probably got the edge on the Wallabies there anyway. And they've driven over to score a try just when they needed it, just when it looked as if the wheels were starting to loosen on the England chariot. Australia 9, England 11, 50 minutes gone. Farrell to turn a 2-point lead into 4. Up steps Farrell, and that's drifted across the face of the post. So he's missed a couple tonight uncharacteristically, but England lead 11-9.
Yeah, it's really nice work. Just their variation in attack at the moment. So Farrell's gone for cross-field. I know it got charged down. Stewart managed to collect it. Then the little dink along the floor, little grubber for Jack Nowell. They've got to start mixing up their attacking game if they want to keep on top of this Australian side, because at the minute, they've not quite worked it out.
And it's just showed for the first time that poor discipline, poor penalties have really paid in the form of a try here, the first try of the match.
Can England kick on from here? They've struggled to really get going, and maybe Courtney Lawes can help spark something there. Skipper, he drives over the 22. Danny Kerr, all this experience. He's had to wait a long time though to turn cap number 84 into cap number 85. He hoisted into the Perth sky, asking Jack Nowell to chase. Koroibete takes it, but Knowles all over him. He offloads Koroibete to Lennox Ital, the outside centre. Halfway line for the Wallabies. White now. Can the backs make something happen for Australia? Kellaway is caught. He had Karevi outside him.
Poor Australia now trying to move the ball off slow ball. They've actually gone back about 20 yards at this moment, so they will now be kicking once again way back and won't be getting the level of return. You can see the pressure at the breakdown. Johnny Hill, Maro Itoje marshalling at guard there, and that's a good positive outcome as Nick White looks to send this ball into the Perth skies.
Feather in the cap for the England defence, because Australia went nowhere there. Forward comes Stewart, takes it well under good pressure from Valentini, but Stewart ruled the skies as he so often does. England now drive almost up to the halfway line. Danny Kerr finds Marcus Smith, the Harlequins halfbacks at different stages of their careers. Kellaway forward, Tokosiga with the tackle. Farrell's there looking to turn that over. Messy ruck ball for Australia as England's defence just turns up a bit of intensity, Natasha.
This kick chase is just brilliant. As soon as the Australians are catching the ball, they are being absolutely slotted by 1, 2, 3 men. It's resulting in turnover time and time again for England. As I say, that penalty's been awarded, but just really nice play from England. Really lovely weighted kicks, brilliant accuracy in the kick chase. Jack Nowell's good, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a messy old ruck. England did a great job of spoiling, but Ellis Genge couldn't resist just going in there and picking it out the ruck, and the referee said you can't pick the ball out the ruck. So that turnover that you spotted, Mo, was enforced illegally by England. So penalty to Australia, who will belt it out of their own half through Lolase'e.
Yeah, that's 17 penalties in the game, 52 minutes in, so there's no wonder as to why it has been quite clunky, and we haven't seen that level of fluency and the amount of phases that we've seen. But I think there's been a shift for England in their mindset in this second half to go after this Australian breakdown. They've really tried to fire through and commit numbers in and just deconstruct the rucks for the like of Nick White to then put pressure on Lolesio, and it's now starting to pay off a little bit.
Well, changes being made by Australia. Loose head prop Angus Bell and the 70 cap Scott Seo, part of that Wallaby scrum that took England to the cleaners back at the World Cup in 2015. Great player, Scott Seo. He is on for Bell, who's had a good game as well, the Waratah, in his 17th appearance. It's all been happening for Australia, hasn't it? Alan Alaalatoa went off, injured. Quade Cooper pulled out in the warm-up. Tom Banks went off injured in the first half. And Darcy Swain went off, sent off. So Australia will still feel that at 11 points to 9 down, they are well in this. Another change in the back row as Matt Phillip comes on for Rob Leota for Australia. So plenty of changes being made by Dave Rennie, their head coach, as Karevi tries to bust over the gain line. Bit of quick ball perhaps for White, but it's loose again as Australia try and regather some momentum through Marika Koroibete, who was rocked back in the tackle by Ludlam and Jamie George, and George comes away with the ball. Excellent defence again from England. Here's Johnny Hill after that 10-minute break for his hair pull. Kerr wants quick ball, he's not getting it, but Australia don't roll away.
He's got to get a yellow card out. You can't have this amount of penalties for the same infringement. How many times we heard the ref say, get off the wrong side? He's actually spoiling what should be a way more open contest.
I agree, but that was actually Johnny Hill holding him in. He's got the man, he's literally pulling him in over the ball, so there's no way that he can get out of it. I know you need to make more effort, but it's really clever play from an England perspective as well.
And England kick up to the 22, and with those setbacks we've discussed, Hugo, all the injuries, the red card, England have a chance now to kind of put their foot on the accelerator and really drive momentum home.
Yeah, it's been ping-pong, hasn't it, on the scoreboard. England go 3, Australia come back with 3, but if they can get consecutive scores now, take this 11 to 14 or 11 out to 16 or 18, then you can start to feel a sense of relief, and Australia have to start forcing their hands to a big lineup now for England.
Laws wins it at the front. Can England start to turn the screw? Jack Knowles off his wing and almost makes a clean break. He's tackled despairingly by Parecki, but he makes good inroads into the Wallaby defence. Nice ball from Laws to Gench, much better from England. Kerr is caught at the base of the ruck, but got it away well to Hill. Hill, lovely hands from Noel to Billy Vunipola. Billy for the corner. He's tackled into touch. Nicely done, Caden Neville. The veteran debutant, if that's not a crass oxymoron, 33-year-old making his first appearance. He saved the day because Billy Vunipola was looking for the corner there.
Clever work though. Vunipola's just thrown it back in and it's actually come off Australia, so England are now with a 5-metre line out. Anticipate this just going up the jumpers, straight over.
Yeah, pressure really starting to build for Australia. Apart from that 3-pointer which they took after 3 minutes into the second half, it's been all England. Opposition times in the 22 starting to go up, and that was incisive as England have looked going through the phases.
Well, England have got the line out, so Vunipola must have just chucked it back inside, as you say, and it's a chance. Yeah, and it's a chance for England. They've already scored a try from a rolling maul. Can they get a second? And that would put real pressure on the Wallabies. It would put England a step closer to another win on Australian soil, to a 9th straight win over the men in gold. Danny Kerr digs for it as Ludlam holds it under his right armpit. Now it's there for Kerr. Kerr to Jack Nowell off his wing. He's felled, but only a metre or 2 out. Kerr's in that ruck, so England may have to pick and go Exeter style. Gench pops it out to Lewis Ludlam. Good carry from Ludlam. 1 metre out England as Hooper tries to steal. Michael Hooper's on that ball, he's got it. And Hooper makes a key play to keep Australia hanging on.
I've got to say, Hooper will get all the plaudits for that still, and rightly so. But the collision from Lolesio onto Jack Nowell in that first hit, that weight of tackle allowed Australia to be able to get back on their feet, get round the corner, because what you don't want to get are big forwards running against big backs. So Hooper gets perfect position to be able to assess that situation, and what a vital moment that was for the Australians.
That's a huge moment in the context of this game. As you mentioned, if they've got 5 points there, 16, probably 18, the way that that's working infield. Massive turnover, and that's exactly what you want your captain to do. Come up with the big moment plays like that. Brilliant accuracy at the breakdown. Lovely body position, nice and low over, just could not be moved.
Well, Australia's line-out's been picked up. I mean, their line kicking has been so conservative. Ugo picked up earlier in the game. They barely kicked past the 22. England steal. Now Jack Nowell puts a grubber through. Nicely weighted that from Nowell. Back goes Koroibete from the left wing to the right wing. He goes inside to Pataya, and then White clears, but England are going to have an opportunity here to either counter-attack or have a good clearance actually for Nick White. So England will throw in on the 10-metre line, and yeah, good 40-metre clearance almost from Nick White, but England do have the attacking platform now.
It's a fantastic option by Jack Nowell, lovely turnover, great line-out work by Johnny Hill, move it into the midfield. All of the Australians are up because they're about to attack, and Jack Nowell just drops it on his boot, is curling towards the touchline, so Kerevi has to do something about it, but lovely play by him.
Changes up front for England. Ugo Makavanopoulos back on his first Test match in over a year.
He'll be hungry. He's been on fine form for Saracens, not just what he does in the scrum, but I tell you what, in terms of work rate in and around the field, he'll certainly have something to say and add.
Billy Vunipola for England over the 10-metre line. Now here's Kerr deep to Marcus Smith. Smith to Thokanasiga. Over the 10-metre line, England go. 11 points to 9, England lead. Australia 9, England 11. Itoje tries to go through that ruck. There for Kerr, out to Ludlam.
Ludlam, who has been excellent, I think, since he's come on. His energy, his physicality has been exceptional. And on Makavanopoulos, Billy Vunipola always looked better when his brother's on the pitch, which could be dangerous for Australia.
Smith wide to Itoje, who drops it out of play. And again, England just can't really get their attack going, and it's still a 2-point ball game. England have got a lot going for them with Australian injuries and that sending off, but it's still in the balance here. Australia 9, England 11.
I love Marcus Smith. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's brilliant, but for me, his handling has been off the money today. That one just way too far out in front of who's he trying to hit? Itoje. Yeah, way too far out in front of Itoje, asking too much of him. Some of the ball's been checked, especially to Owen Farrell. I just think that he's a much better player than that, potentially Test match rugby getting on top of him right now.
Big decision now for the captain, Courtney Lawes. England just win another penalty at the breakdown. Australia not releasing the ball. Australia actually decide to go early, keep the ball in field, and then put all the pressure back on themselves. But England with a penalty about 35 metres out, 20 metres from the touchline. Do they bank the points? Because that would feel like a guaranteed 3 for Owen Farrell. Or do they kick to the corner? Because that line-out seems to be starting to give dividends for England.
Yeah, hour gone in Perth. Australia 9, England 11. England win a crucial penalty. And as Ugo Monye was outlining, a decision now for England to make, whether they try and kick the goal or go for the corner. As Luke Cowan-Dickie prepares to come on for Jamie George, can these replacements give them fresh momentum? And England are going for goal through Owen Farrell. A regulation kick for Farrell, but he's missed a couple tonight. He missed an earlier penalty, missed the conversion from the right touchline. This to take the lead out to 5 points. Australia 9, England 11. Slap bang on the hour mark. 25 metres out or so Farrell. 16 metres in from the left touchline. Boos ring around the stadium in West Australia. Big crowd in to see the Wallabies' first Test of the summer. Farrell straight through, and England lead by 5.
So, 5-point lead at this point with 20 to go. Will feel like 15 because attack's really not been on top. It feels like this has been a game, as much as we spoke about the excitement of some of the players, but defence is ruling and dominating and just negating any real attacking flow. So having that buffer of what is essentially a try, Australia, do they start pushing the envelope a little bit more and playing a bit more now?
They have to, as we say that, what a kick-off and a take. Absolutely brilliant. They've come back up with the ball. Scrum in the 22, really good attacking opportunity. That is exactly what you don't want from an England perspective, to let them off the hook, to give them an opportunity to come back into this game.
Well, brilliantly done from the restart by Australia, as you were saying, Mo, and it's a scrum to the Wallabies as Koroibete rose above Jack Nowell, and then Australia were going forward at the ruck, and they have a scrum. What can they do from this, Ugo?
Well, it was a real good opportunity. I think what we saw in the early exchanges in the first half was how Australia used Kerevi. That simple play is such a focal point. And now we've got this left-hand side scrum. Nick White is electric around the break. Koroibete on his right shoulder. Kerevi coming flat to the line. Ikitau flat to the line. They'll all want to challenge. Marcus Smith, Owen Farrell and Joe March, and that is the opportunity and the options which Australia have. But in order to do any of that, they've got to get clean ball, and in fact one of those options been taken away. Corbetti's gone onto the blindside flank of the scrum to make sure they can at least get parity from this scrum.
Australia with the scrum, can they get solid ball for Rob Valetini? They can, he peels away, but is well tackled by the impressive Lewis Ludlam, who's made an impact since coming on for Curry. Nick White dancing round the fringe, 5-point the gap in England's favour. Australia 9, England 14, but that's better from Australia and Michael Hooper. Only 15 metres out or so, the Wallabies. Scott Seo finds Matt Phillip, the replacement, wearing number 19. Australia's best attack in absolutely ages, as James Slipper, the veteran prop, drives on. The referee was right there and he felt it was okay as Seo carries again. They're under England's crossbar here, Australia. White scoots to the left, out to Karevi. Karevi against Noel. Big carry from Karevi, but Noel does well to tackle him around the ankles. Advantage to Australia. England on the back foot here. They lead by 5, but an Aussie try would bring the scores level. Phillip to within 5 metres, left of the post. White now, out to Lolaseo. Karevi's ball to Ikitau. There's numbers here as Kellaway finds Jordan Petaia, and Petaia scores for Australia. And we are back level. Great Wallaby try. We've waited over an hour to see the Australians with ball in hand. And it's the replacement, Jordan Petaia, who scored a brilliant try, and we're all level of 14 all.
Just lovely attack, wasn't it? Nick White, you mentioned him fizzing around that breakdown. The speed of his ball out the back door, just 3 really wide passes, lovely timing of the pass on the edge, and a fantastic finish, making sure it stays in field. Lovely work from Australia, right through the heart of England, and then they just fizz it out, take their opportunity really well. First chance they've had as a backline to go up against them, and they come away with points.
It was such a slick attack from Australia. There was a couple of things in that phase of play which led up to Petaia's try. One is Samu Karevi's catch pass, the speed at which he gets that ball out, and then Kellaway, who's a right winger now at 15, he hides on the left-hand side and then appears onto the right-hand side, just attracting some of those England defenders. He creates that extra man, and then the ball out to Petaia, and it's a wonderful finish from him. It was only a few minutes ago we were thinking England go and score this from their line-outs and it could be curtains. Australia had other thoughts. 1-on-1 Petaia and Danny Kerr, and there's only going to be one outcome, and the game has been brought level with a kick to come.
We've waited over an hour to see some decent rugby, and we got it there from Australia. Beautifully worked. Kellaway with the killer pass, and Jordan Petaia goes in at the corner, and we are set for a thrilling final 15 minutes. Australia, 14-man Australia, 14, England 14, so 14 men and 14 points for Australia. It is all level. Lolaseo to put the Wallabies into the lead for the first time today. A few jeers and whistles in the crowd, but most people fixated on the young number 10, who kicks the conversion. It sneaks in nicely, and Australia lead, and there'll be a sense around Perth that they can believe now. Australia 16, England 14, 14 and a half minutes left.
You've got to think about the origin of the try. Yes, it's Petaia, yes, it's Kellaway's hands. It's a restart. Corabetti chased the restart, which gave that field position. Field position's so important. But England got history of this, being in Australia's position. Ireland, Six Nations, losing Charlie Hawes after 8 minutes. It's often in the final quarter where you can burst that down. And so for England, they've got to put their boot down and make this one-man advantage really pay. Because at the minute, Australia are winning this game.
I'm also really interested to see how much Eddie Jones backs the 3 debut backs that he's got on the bench. Is he going to throw them into this cauldron? I'm not sure that they're going to get game time today.
Great point, Mo. What do you do about Jack Van Poortvliet, Guy Porter and Henry Arundel all on debut? It's fine bringing on Maka Vunipola and Luke Cowan-Dickie, isn't it? A pair of lions. Different kettle of fish when you're 2 points down away in Perth. Kellaway, who made that try with his incisive pass, takes the kick in, and it was all from that Corabetti chase from the restart that gave Australia the field position. That's been knocked on by Australia. England have a scrum, right. Luke Cowan-Dickie just screams in approval, because England will have the ball, a chance just to calm it down, go to one of their weapons in the scrum.
I'd love to see more play, but in a game which is this tight on the knife edge, especially from an Australian perspective, one man down, I think you've got to play less in your own half. And at the moment, exiting has been killing both sides. It cost England a try just a few minutes ago. Now Australia have coughed the ball up just inside their half, and England have an opportunity off a centre field scrum. And what England normally do, position Marcus Smith in the backfield.
We've
got a TMO check. Michael Hooper was speaking to the referee about a high tackle.
This is going to be interesting, because the TMO has come in, which suggests he's seen something from England.
I think it was a penalty. Watching
James,
it live,
you'll be looking at a tackle by 8 White.
Billy Vunipola on Michael Hooper.
Oh, that's shoulder to head.
It's shoulder to head.
Secondary tackle, so there's potential mitigation, but when a TMO speaks up and spots something, there's often a negative sanction.
I don't think we're looking red card just because of the degree of danger, Ugo, and the mitigation that you suggest, but Billy Vunipola might be penalty minimum and maybe a yellow card here. Hooper potentially falling, not a massive amount of force. There's Billy Vunipola, there's always force, and there is contact. Let's listen to the officials.
Yes? Yeah, so I just want to see it one more time, but I want to see it at full speed, BP, because currently we're at a penalty, because the tackler is very passive.
Yes, we're not looking at anything.
Full speed coming now, James.
Here we go. It's a penalty or yellow card, isn't it, Natasha?
Yeah, I think so. He's saying that it's gone straight into his chin, but for me it looks like it's shoulder riding up as that tackle's happening as well.
Yep, agree. BP, we're at yellow?
Yeah, I agree,
well,
James.
it's a yellow card to Billy Vunipola, and with the clock saying 67, it's going to be 14 on 14 for much of the rest of this game.
It's yellow card, boys.
Yellow card to Billy Vunipola. So what could have been an England scrum in Australian territory is instead an Australian penalty, and one of the key men for England who's been good today, Billy Vunipola, is off.
Yeah, Dolman once again taking his time and the way in which he's worked to the TMO. I do think it's the right outcome. The other thing I just want to say about the pictures that we're getting, what you won't be able to hopefully appreciate from back home is that every decision has been broadcast to everyone live there at Perth, which means that everyone is full understanding of what's happening live, because we often get this 3 or 4 minutes of absolute silence with no one really knowing what is happening in the game.
Yeah, it means that everyone who's at the ground and paid their money for a ticket gets as good experience as everyone watching back home, which only seems fair, doesn't it? But in all seriousness, England are in trouble here. Australia 16, England 14. Yes, Australia have been down to 14 men for ages after the red card to Darcy Swain. But with Billy Vunipola in the sin bin, it's 14 on 14 for the next 10 minutes. Australia have the territory, they have possession, they have the scoreboard as Karevi bundles into Marcus Smith. An Australian penalty would really force England to play. As Sio runs into Mako Vunipola, they're inside the 22 here, the Wallabies, and they're starting to believe the men in gold. Little kick through for Pataya. Stewart comes across, Stewart's in trouble. Aussie 5-metre line out.
Such good intelligent play. They really started to push and pull the levers, try and find those seams within that English defence. It starts off with Samu Karevi, who I think is such a brilliant ball carrier, went down the blind side, put boot to ball and kept the ball in play, which meant that Freddie Stewart, but this is being checked as well. No, that's a good challenge, but the outcome or net result of it is Australia have a 5-metre line out.
Starting to believe as well, aren't you? You can feel the atmosphere change in the stadium. Australia really seem to have their chest pumped up. They're ready to attack, and they feel like they've got England at the moment.
England, they made a change in the second row. They have. Ollie Chesham is on for Johnny Hill as the Wallabies get their drill right in the line out. Can they give England a taste of their own medicine? It was Genge and England who drove Australia over with the 5-metre line out earlier in the half. Now it's the Wallabies who are 3 metres out, and they're looking pretty solid. They've got an advantage, and they're peeling away. They're up to the line. They've scored from Fainga, and that could be the key moment. Is that the try that gives Australia victory in this first test and consigns England to defeat in Perth?
I can't believe what I'm seeing. This is a remarkable comeback. Talk about level of composure. We had some insight into the messages from the coaches at half-time, but the way in which they've been able to employ their game plan in the second half, it started with 3 points, and then it was all-out attack and warfare from England. They've had to digest all of that, try and combat all of that, emotionally deal with a red card, and come back with 2 what could be potential terminal attacks for England from themselves. The try from Pattaya, and then the substitute hooker Fainga from a driving line out. The tables have massively turned here in Perth.
It's just outstanding play, really, really good work. The ball starts to crab infield, and Fainga just a brilliant option. As soon as Luke Cowan-Dickie jumps in, trying to add a little bit of weight to that maul, he's left the gap, and Fainga spots it, goes straight around the outside. Him against Danny Care. Unfortunately, there's only going to be one winner if you're an England supporter, but brilliant play. What a game we've got. What a finish.
Well, it has exploded into life, this one, hasn't it? But not the way England would have liked. They trail now by 7 points.
How big's this kick?
Massive kick. With 10 minutes to go, Loliseo to take it out to 2 scores. England have scored 1 try from the rolling ball, but again, their attack has just been so disconnected. More questions are going to be asked of England, who stuttered through the Six Nations. Loliseo, he's kicked it, and the lead is now out to 9. And Australia on the verge of ending this miserable run against England. 8 in a row for Eddie Jones's men, but Australia will never get a better chance. Australia 23, England 14, 9 minutes to go.
Remarkable end to this match. Absolutely remarkable. Spoke about how Australia have really come back and been able to put their game on the pitch. Well, it's England's time now, as Jack Nowell and Lewis Ladlam are now back into Australia's 22 off that restart.
England have turned it over. They've got to score now. It's a non-negotiable. Great carry. Mako Vunipola up against Hooper. Still there for Mako. Laws is in there to try and get it back for England. He just about does. Kerr out to Ludlam, deep to Smith behind the gain line. Marcus Smith, good ball out to Jack Nowell. Nowell steps, caught by a couple of Wallabies.
There's tackle, release the ball!
Almost up to the 5-metre line go England, who have got to score now. There's Will Stewart, who's going the distance here at tight head. Will Stewart there for Danny Kerr. Kerr to Chesham, big defence Australia. Hooper trying to steal the ball, but it's still there for England. And for Danny Kerr, no, it's a penalty to Australia. Big call by the referee. As England were pressing, there were bodies everywhere. England will feel aggrieved at that one, but a penalty's gone to the Wallabies.
How good is that from Samu? About 10 minutes ago, it's Hooper. Exactly same situation where England are banging against Australia's door. But you've got to say, for us, you know, for how we've applauded Australia's attack in this second half, couple of huge moments defensively. Their goal line defence against this English forward pack, which I thought would be a point of difference, hasn't been that way.
100%. Really good work at the breakdown, but for me, Itoje's just completely missed the beat. He's ran as an option, gone straight past the ball, so Chisholm has no support at all, which allows that split second for Samu to get straight over the ball. Poor attack from them. If you're an option, you've got to be able to get back in and be able to be first rucker.
8 minutes left in Perth. Australia 23, England 14. After this, we'll have commentary of Liam Brodie at Wimbledon. Earlier wasn't to be for Katie Boulter, who went out 1-on-1 against Harmony Tan. Well beaten 6-1, 6-1 by Serena Williams' conqueror. England have the scrum from the line out. It's now or never, isn't it?
Australia was so frustrated to win the penalty. Massive surge of energy and endorphins been lifted. Kick to touch. Keep the drills basic. They just needed to get out of their half, but Ollie Chesham competed really well and managed to turn that ball over. And I couldn't agree more. With 6.5 minutes to go, England's scrum, they need to score in the next couple of minutes.
And that last penalty may have been harsh, but when you're chasing the game, you're away from home, you sometimes don't get those calls, do you? And England will only have themselves to blame. They've had the man advantage for most of this game. You felt had the edge on Australia in certain areas, but they've not been able to get close to putting them away. They've scored 1 try, only 14 points. Scant return for England for plenty of possession and territory.
Just seeing the pictures now, just the faces. England looking around, and there'll be a sense of frustration, but whilst Luke Cowan-Dickie gets his head attended to, just a little cut there from the eye, it's so important that there's that sense of clarity and cohesion and real focus on this next phase, because whilst both teams haven't been able to go through loads of phases, this next launch play and how they can construct a sense of shape and get some gain line, I think is so important, right?
100%, and they'll want to know what they're doing 2-3 phases in advance as well, not just the launch, but exactly the movement off the back of it, how they're going to break down this Australian attack. This is something that they would have practiced for in the week, they'd have looked at time and time again, and now execution needs to be on the money.
Stoppages while a few forwards get some treatment. Remember, it's raining in the cricket. They've taken early lunch. England 16 for 1 in reply to India's 416 all out, which included an astonishing 35 runs off one Stuart Broad over, which is a record for Test cricket. So it's all been happening in Birmingham today. England 16 for 1, early lunch, rain at Edgbaston. India 416 all out, the rearranged 5th Test between the two sides. England scrum, Hugo.
Yeah, 7v7 in the scrum because of the red card and the yellow card. Scrums have been really unstable all game. As Dolman, the referee, just has a quiet word with both sets of front rowers. This at the moment is absolute brilliant news for Australia as they just keep winding down the clock. So part instability, part gamesmanship, part understanding and controlling the clock as they're in total control of the scoreboard.
And you made the point earlier, Natasha Hunt, England scrum half, that what does Eddie Jones do with his bench? And he's happy to put on Mako and Luke Cowan-Dickie, but Danny Kerr's going 80, it looks like. The wingers are going 80.
Luckily for Danny Kerr, he's been doing 80 all season for Harlequins pretty much, hasn't he?
Oh, as I say that, Henry Arundel's come on, Hugo Monya's seen out the corner of his eye. Australia, big Australia scrum, they're going to get the penalty, and England are beaten here. Massive Wallaby scrum, and look at the body language from the men in gold. They've made a mess of the England forward pack. They've got the penalty, they've got the ball, they've got the scoreboard as well. Australia 23, England 14, and the Wallabies can spend the last 5 minutes in England territory.
Yeah, well, there's some statements you can make at home that would be so pleasing. 2 tries is great, lovely attacking shape, but turning England's scrum over is absolutely massive. Once again, an absolute pressure valve relief moment for Australia as Lolesio looks to get this ball and just keep Australia in the right half. Territory renewal is going to be such an important factor, but with, what's it, 5 minutes to go, couldn't be more important than it is right now.
And it's clever play as well. Lolesio is taking his time on the kick, setting it up, they're making the substitutions, taking their time to walk to the line out, just winding that clock down for straight in England. 2-score game still, that's the context of it. Nick White's just leaving the field now. I think he's been absolutely magic today. He's been fantastic around the pitch.
Well, it's been an England performance that will lead to a lot of questions, quite the inquest, but from an Australian rugby point of view, this is going to mean a huge amount if they see it out, because they've lost 8 in a row against England. It's a flagging rugby nation that's looking to revive itself, and no better way than beating the old enemy. Australia 23, England 14. Matt Phillip on in the Wallaby pack sets it up as they go to the left through Jake Gordon, the replacement, number 9. Here's Corbett, who's really got into this game in the second half. Good tackle, Courtney Laws. England flooding at the ball on the breakdown, but it's in Wallaby possession. 14 on 14. Billy Vunipora's in the bin for another 90 seconds. Australia can kill England off here. They've got good attacking momentum now as Itoje rushed out the line to try and stop that and does well on Lolesio.
Yeah, they're getting off the line now. England desperately know that they need to get the ball back, but it's that balance of being aggressive at the breakdown, trying to get the ball back because you need 2 scores, but also a penalty now, and this game is most definitely over.
Gordon out to Lolesio, who's done really well considering he was thrust into the team at the last minute. He gets the offload away to Neville, and the Australians are starting to cook it in Perth as they drive on once more.
Gordon's doing so well as well, going back to blindside. He's just constantly testing this England defence, really asking questions of which side to attack.
And he's going again, the replacement number 9, who's added spark. There for Seo. Lolesio in centre field. He spins away and gets the offload as well. They're only 7 or 8 metres out, Australia. They lead by 9 as Karevi runs into Henry Arundel, the rookie who's on for his Test debut. What an introduction, a baptism of fire for the London Irish back. Gordon out to Pete Samu's up tonight. They've scored again, Australia, and England are well and truly beaten in Perth. Brilliant flourish from the Wallabies. And in this final 20, they have put England away.
We are stunned, not just with the scoreline, but also the footwork of Samu as he catches the ball, literally two-step, bounces outside the defender, and then has the turn of pace to go over. But just brilliant attack from Australia. Lolesio challenging the line. He's really grown into this game, especially in the second half, and just really abrasive running, just taking defenders on left, right and centre, making ground every single time. Ball's being thrown back out of the breakdown, so it's there for Gordon. He's just fizzing it around. Look at that two-step. Brilliant.
Jason Robinson would be chuffed at that level of step. I mean, it's a wild pass from Gordon, who is about five attackers out, so he takes out about 5 England defenders. But in terms of the clinical edge which Australia have shown in this last 20 minutes, we didn't know what to expect. We can only go off what the team sheet shows and history, form, and we know what it's like. But in terms of hard spirit, they've answered so many questions today, because this is a side that have had to play with 14 men for the majority of this match, and a scoreline that could look 30 points to 14. I just didn't envisage a scoreline like that at all about an hour and a half ago.
It's massive for Australian rugby, but there are no excuses for England. Hugo, we spoke all week on the pod. This England team looks strong on paper. Lolesio adds the extra 30 points to 14. It's a hammering. We spoke on the pod, England had a great team out on paper. So then the attention turned to how well were they prepared, how well were they drilled, how well were they coached. And unfortunately, England have been well beaten with everything going their way. Red card to Australia, injuries to the Wallabies, Cooper out in the warm-up, and England losing 30 points to 14. This is going to be a tough one for England to react to, as Chesham tries to restore some gloss to the scoreboard. Marcus Smith in centre field, deep to Owen Farrell, out to Marchant, good hands to Freddie Stewart. Henry Arundel on the left wing. He steps inside, oh, he's got through Henry Arundel. Oh, he's going for the corner, and he's scored a stunning try. On debut, the 19-year-old, what a moment. He had Australians all over him, and he showed pace, poise, power to score a stunning debut try, and maybe just give England a glimmer of hope.
This is first touch in international rugby. He's gone between 2 Australian defenders, kicked out, then gone round Samu Kerevi, who's been exceptional today. You talk about making a mark and introducing yourself onto the stage. Well, that is as good a finish as you'll say in international rugby this season. He had absolutely no right, quite purely because he's gone on and he's beat 4 defenders. Kellaway, sit down. And then off he goes in and around Petaia, Lolesio and Kerevi. What a way to mark your international debut.
I think he beat James O'Connor as well for good measure, who's come on. So Farrell did kick the extras from the touchline, but that'll be it. I mentioned a glimmer of hope. There simply isn't enough time for England. They're 9 down. There will be one more play. Even if they score here, they're going to lose. So the Wallabies have got this, but perhaps right at the end, England have got a straw to clutch to in the form of Henry Arundel. Courtney Lawes takes the restart. England will keep playing, but the Wallabies have won in Perth. Australia 30, England 21. Billy Vunipola is back on, but how telling was that Vunipola sin bin? Australia then put the foot on the gas, scored a couple of tries and put England away. There's going to be a yellow card here. Lolesio, is it, Hugo, who's come up from the line and knocked it on deliberately. So we're deep in the red. Australia 30, England 21. Yellow card to Australia for deliberate knock-on, but it's going to be too little too late for England.
It's interesting now as we go to the bench, it's Lolesio gone off. Scott Wisemantle, who was in charge of the England attack just a few years ago and was at their best. He's now he's in charge of Australia, and the difference of their style and connectivity, especially in that last 20 minutes, he'll have a real sense of pride to him as well. Jack von Portfleet on the bench, off the bench and onto the pitch as well now.
Well, England are still attacking, and Arundel might be going through again. Unbelievable stuff from Henry Arundel right at the end. England have a penalty advantage. They're only 5 metres out. They're playing their best rugby of the game when the game was up, Natasha, which is so frustrating.
Arundel will be starting next week, you watch. But yeah, definitely, there's a freedom to play at the minute they're in this England side. They're throwing the ball, they're fizzing out passes. As I say that, Luke Cowan-Dickey's going straight through the heart of it, but they're just mixing up the attack. They're playing quicker than they have all game.
Well, England had one consolation try through Andor. They look like they're going to get a second as Chesham drives to within a metre. They've got penalty advantage with 2 minutes into the red, 2 minutes after the 80. The game is up after this play, but if it's penalties, the clock keeps going. Ludlam is felled just short of the Wallaby try line. Australia 30, England 21. Australia have won in Perth, but England are looking to score another try to turn the scoreboard into something that bit more palatable. Inside from Smith to Stewart. Therefore, Jack Van Poortvliet. Van Poortvliet's going to score. So the debutants have made a difference. Arundel with one try, Van Poortvliet with another. It's too little too late, but it's something for England as they head to the second test.
Well, it just goes to show when England can generate quick ball, they're a very good attacking side. We've also got to say, Australia have switched off. The game was done about 5-6 minutes ago when they scored their first try, so when Samu scored their third try. So a mental switch off, some fresh injection, a little bit of being able to generate some pace, and England look great. But what's important for England, it's going to be not much of a consolation, but 30-14 looks like a hammering. This now is going to end 30-26 or potentially 28 with the kick to come. You can kind of cope and deal with that, but still there'll be plenty of questions about this England performance today.
And we'll try and ask and maybe answer some of them in our post-match pod, which will be out shortly on BBC Sounds and all the usual podcast places. Search for Rugby Union Weekly. We're going to have a quick pod on the final whistle, which you can get on Rugby Union Weekly later this afternoon. Farrell then to cut the gap of defeat to 2 points. England with 2 tries right at the end to turn what Ugo Monye was saying was a desperate scoreline into something that bit easier to stomach. Good kick, Farrell, but it's all over. England's long winning run over Australia, dating back to 2016, is over. It's 8 and out. England are beaten by Australia in Perth. A really poor second half from Eddie Jones's men. Australia 30, England 28. A massive moment for Australian rugby, but some soul searching for England ahead of the second test. Natasha Hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that attack, isn't it? The discipline we've mentioned a lot. The attacking sets, they just weren't quite clicking. For me, it was all about accuracy, the speed at which they're moving around the park, but also the accuracy of their pass, which is a non-negotiable at this level.
Yeah, it's been poor. I think England have every... I mean, they'll be so disappointed. The fans will be massively frustrated because come Tuesday, when was the squad announced? Thursday.
Thursday.
A
lot of positivity,
wasn't there? And it hit me in the face. I was automatically so excited. So to now see this result, and it's not just the result, it's the performance allied to it. I'm deflated. I expected a lot more. Unfortunately, the boys couldn't perform tonight.
Yeah, and all